everybody's ready, I will start.
Now I'm ready.
Okay, this was my sign.
Inside at last.
So, 3, 2, 1. Jake, you're muted. Is that on purpose?
Yep.
Okay, good. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, fellow Taffers, to Inside at Last, the one and only thief-dedicated podcast. My name is Alex, and today I was delivering some mail to the city, and afterwards I wanted to go to the cemetery and visit my grandma. And there are some strange guys. They stabbed me. And then I fled into the woods, and I was bleeding a lot. And now those 3 strange fellows were following me. So, guys, what are your names? Come to the light.
Hello.
Yo,
Pete.
Hey,
I'm Seth.
I'm next.
That's great. So, welcome back. We are still alive. Of course, I'm a bit wounded, but it's fine. So, you perverts followed me. Why is that? Or what is this all about? This amazing introduction I made.
A trail of blood.
A trail of blood. Yeah, that's the original mission we are going to discuss today. Basically, we will read through all the amazing comments you Taffers made. So thanks a lot. There are, I think, around 20 comments that we got within a couple of days, which is, pretty amazing, and will give us a good base to discuss the things. But before we do that, Jake, do you maybe want to, get us back into where we were, what has happened, and why we are here in the woods now?
Yeah, so starting with blackmail, we find Mosley's key in Churrett's house. We start to follow Mosley, and we follow her as she's delivering a letter throughout the city. And as we follow her, she drops the letter for a mysterious pagan. We follow the pagan. The pagan is cut down by some hidden mechanists outside the graveyard. The pagan flees into the graveyard further and further, and as we follow his blood trail, we come to a portal that leads somewhere, which we will discuss. So we've
Yes.
gone through the portal.
And then we are in the woods, and we should follow the trail of blood. Until we arrive at the pagans. Do you want to call it a village? It's like what?
Yeah, it's a
4
village.
houses? Is
Yeah.
it a village?
Yeah, it can
Settling?
be a village.
Hey,
Um,
that's a big effort for a few pagans.
Yeah,
Hey, there's even a tower, right? They have a gathering place. That's a village.
I think they put too much effort into carving stone or wood faces into things instead of making a nice place to live.
Well, they don't use hammers.
Those are the tools of the enemy.
But what do they use? They need to use something to cut down trees.
They use plumsies, bro.
Yeah, and how do they carve those faces into the stone?
They use their teeth.
So it's chewed.
Yeah, pagans always gnawing on things. That's why nobody likes them. They're pest animals.
Yeah. So, this is the basic setting of the mission. I think it sounded a bit boring the way we described it. I think when you experience it the first time in the game, it's pretty impressive, or maybe it leaves a mark, I would say. But what are your opinions on this mission? So, what do you think of it? And maybe Seth, you can start and give us your opinion about that thing.
You sure?
No, but at the end, at one time I have to ask you. So go on.
Well, if you're sure, I actually like Trail of Blood.
What?
I,
Objection!
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I asked if you're sure. Yeah, I quite like Trail of Blood. I think it's kind of a love letter to Thief 1. There's a lot of throwbacks in it, and I think the atmosphere is really good. I like the music. Yeah, I like it on the whole. I would say it's not as good as the last time I played it. The
No.
returns might be diminishing.
Oh, for sure. I think this is one of those missions where you get a good impact the first time you play it, maybe second time, but the replay value on this one is, I think, almost non-existent. At a certain point, right, when you're running the game for your fourth, fifth time, or maybe 20th, I don't know. The other missions, still provide you with some news, fresh routes. I don't know. There are different choices you can take. Whereas this one, the more I played it, the more annoying it became. But
Yeah, it's linear.
yeah, very much so.
That's what I
Maybe
was going to say.
the last part isn't as linear as the as the first one. I mean, with the caves, there's some exploration going on there. But yeah, I think I didn't mind it as much the first time, especially because it's not that long, right? It's not like you're doing life of the party, I would say I hate the last mission of Thief more than this one, and I don't necessarily hate this one, right? It's just I find it annoying sometimes. I don't like the mall part of it, especially the villages.
Is it
First
the
part,
mall? That will be something we have to discuss later.
for sure. But the village part and the story that it brings, uh, I think I'm split on my.
Well, isn't it one of the only looks that we actually get at the pagan lifestyle in Thief?
Lifestyle. uh,
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice.
it's a way of life, maybe. Um, but Jake, what is your general opinion on this mission?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what like Nex and Seth have said so far. I do like the mission. I definitely agree with what Nex said, where the returns are definitely diminishing. I think the first time you do it, it's very exciting because of the story implications and just like the setting and being back in the maw and that like moment of coming through the portal and seeing the maw is like really cool. But I definitely think that it does have diminishing returns, but that is definitely because it's linear. There's not really a lot of experimentation you can do. And overall, I think that the mission is kind of hurt by being back to back with Trace the Courier. And I know that we're going to read a comment later that kind of explains why that maybe is a good thing. But I think from a gameplay standpoint, it's kind of disappointing because Trace the Courier is probably like one of the more linear missions in the series. And then you do Trail of Blood, which is also like pretty linear, although maybe less linear than Trace the Courier. So you're doing two linear missions like back to back, and it kind of miss that like Thief open environment life of the party first city bank style missions. So I think that the mission's kind of hurt by being packed with another linear mission. I think had there been an open mission maybe in between these two missions, I think it maybe would have landed maybe a little bit better on repeated playthroughs.
Totally agreed. I think it's two very streamlined missions in a row. And
It's
in general, yep.
and it's a missed opportunity because you said if there was a open style mission in between. I feel like which mission would you rather see in an open style? Like here we have a neat little thing where we follow the blood. Of course, in this mission, the blood is when you're standing on one blood stain, you can already see the next one, right? Imagine this forest being more open, easier to get lost in, where you see one blood stain and you don't see another. I feel like there's a lot that can be expanded on this, right? Where you can actually track the guy. Right now, you don't feel like you're
Yeah, and there's not
tracking.
much to go. It's like, okay, even if there wouldn't be the trail of blood, you would definitely very early come to the place you need because there's just that huge space at the beginning, which is pretty empty.
Agreed.
but we will come to that later in some comments. Like it feels a bit not rushed, but like missed time, and you will eventually get to the village very quick, and you cannot get lost, and that's actually like the total opposite of what you would expect having like a forest mission where you are looking for pagans or you don't know what you're looking for at that time, but
I do have a counterpoint.
of course.
How many of you guys played Trace the Courier on Expert?
I never played it on anything but Expert, I think.
Yep, same.
I played it for the last episode about it. I played it on Expert just to see how it is.
So imagine if it was your first playthrough and you were playing Trace the Courier on Expert. There are a lot of there's randomization in that mission, right? Mosley's path is, I think there are 3 different paths that she can take. So if you play that mission on Expert and it's very tense and you're following very closely for the entire mission, wouldn't Trail of Blood be kind of a breath of fresh air after that?
I think, I would have said that later as well. I think when I put myself into Little Me, even if I was scared of the forest theme, it was like, like opening up something. Actually a breath of fresh air, literally, I agree with that. But then the air smells a bit.
As you get older.
Even back then I thought it was not. This is, if I do a Thief 2 playthrough, Trace the Courier and this one, Trail of Blood, are the missions where I press Control, Alt, Shift, and End.
Well, it's a good thing I have this tiny keyboard because I can't press those buttons.
It's an anti-cheat keyboard for Thief, just for Thief, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely. To follow up on what you just said, Alex, I totally agree because like I've played through the game recently, and like the game is like goes to such a crescendo when you get to like Truett's mansion, and it's really like flying high. Like the the pacing is like normal Thief pacing, but the stakes keep getting raised, the missions keep getting better, the level design is amazing, and then you just hit Trace the Courier and you hit Trail of Blood, and for me, it's like those missions have like some good points, but it's like the pacing just comes to a complete halt, and you're like just doing like linear story things, and it's just like it feels really just like you just went from 70 to 0. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you got a little hint of that in Ambush. That was like the first mission where you're like, oh, okay, not everything is amazing. But yeah, now it's 2, I would say, lame missions in a row. But of course, I have to admit, like, when you played it the first time and, the story is very... And I think that's the thing. If the story wouldn't be good in this game, then the whole thing would be... Yeah, then it would be really bad, I would say. But first time players, and you have the story in your mind, and of course you want to know what's going on, and I think that this adds a lot what we maybe forget after knowing the game in and outs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like after these 2 missions, anything after is a party.
Ooh.
Oh.
Tease.
No, I wouldn't agree, but this is something for later episodes. I think that afterlife of the party, it's the game isn't getting better, I would say, but
We'll have time to disagree, but let's...
I can just give you a little hint. I recently replayed the last mission, and I actually liked it.
Now I have an objection.
But, that's the interesting thing, because back in the days, it was overwhelming, but now, where I'm better at Thief, this was a challenge,
You got good.
Or maybe after Builder's Paradise, this was a breath of fresh air. I don't know. No, but that's something for later. Yeah.
Oh, I'd take Builder's Paradise any day over the... I don't even know the name. What's it called?
Sabotage its Soul Forge.
Ugh.
Yeah, so what do you guys think? Should we now go to the comments and start with them?
Play them on me.
So, guys, we agreed on that Seth will read out the Stealth Dogs comment.
All right, you got it.
So, in the last level discussion episode where Trace the Courier was being discussed, a point was raised that it was an anticlimactic mission, all set up and no payoff save for a minor skirmish with the mechanists at the graveyard. Garrett infiltrates the graveyard and finds a portal, a big fat to be continued scenario. And the point was well made. Assassins from Thief 1 has a self-contained story arc, in which Garrett robs the guy who just tried to have him killed. Trace the Courier is apparently incomplete, but Trail of Blood is the payoff for Trace the Courier. Trace the Courier leaves the player with questions, while Trail of Blood allows players to find answers to them. For me personally, Trace the Courier and Trail of Blood are indivisible on a narrative level. There's a two-part structure going on in this mid-game detective story, and both missions gradually present players with all the pieces of the puzzle, offering clarity to Garrett's recent misfortunes earlier in the game. Suddenly, Garrett and his small war with Sheriff Truitt are dwarfed by greater concerns, and Trail of Blood is one of my favourite Thief missions because it expands not only the plot of Thief 2, but the world Garrett inhabits. The linear structure of following people through the city's streets gives way to an open, narrative-rich environment, where players get to explore a side to the pagans we never witnessed in Thief 1. I'll never forget the experience of sneaking through the pagans' village, listening to the echoes of the dead and piecing together what happened. Then there's the surreal landscapes of the moor and its unique, monstrous qualities. I don't know how Looking Glass Studios found time to create the tree beasts with everything else they had going on during development, but getting chased by one of those was an emotional experience for teenage me. Potentially, that's an enemy that players may never encounter, if they're sneaky and paranoid enough. I don't know if everything Trail of Blood offers is enough to make up for Trace the Courier for a lot of the veterans out there. For me personally, Trail of Blood and Trace the Courier are one mission in two parts, and they are right up there with First City Bank and Trust, and I'm sure that will ruffle some feathers. But it's fine, this is pre-recorded audio, and you can't stop me. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Cheers.
So, Seth, thanks for reading it out. I think you've done a great job. I like how you spell the word career.
Oh, thank you.
Also, what a lovely voice you have.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's always good with all those voices, and I almost had the feeling that Stealth Dogs is right here.
Yeah,
Hey,
your best
Right?
boost
Yeah.
yet.
I'm available as voice talent for any Thief FM.
If they give you a booth, a soundproof booth.
You,
My only request.
Seth, do you do voiceovers for Stealth Docs channel?
He actually is Stealth Dogs. That's now it's that's the big reveal.
What a twist.
I can neither
This-
confirm nor deny.
Seth Dogs. So, but to his opinion, I think actually, reading through this or hearing it, he still has that mindset, and what he mentioned brought me back into my childhood, where I experienced what he described like that. You sneak through the village, and suddenly, the first time you can see what there were people there, and now they're slaughtered, and they didn't stand a chance, as Garrett mentions it. And the tree beasts were pretty creepy, and they are still.
What was everyone's first experience with the tree beasts? Like, I remember mine vividly.
Fear, intense fear. I was like, what's going on? I didn't expect that because I hadn't seen them before.
Yeah, I remember that area is mostly a downward slope. So I remember like hacking my way through winter, jumping into summer, and just hearing those like weird rattles. And I wasn't sprinting or stealthing. I was just walking through summer. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of a weird sound. And I turned around and a tree hit me in the face. And I immediately screamed and started running. I was like 14 at the time. That was an experience. I have to agree with Stealth Docs on that one.
I think what makes it also so impactful is because at this point you've pretty much think you've seen all the different tricks that Thief is going to throw at you. You're like, okay, I've seen haunts, I've seen mechanists, I've seen cameras, and all this other stuff. And then there's just this tree beast. It's like it just punctuates how frightening it is because you think you're like, oh, I've got a handle on this. I know every trick in the book, and boom, tree beast.
Yeah, I agree.
But to kind of get into his comment, I totally agree with it being like a thematic increase sort of in the stakes. Like I think thematically, like Trace and Trail are both really good, and I think they do a lot of necessary like heavy story lifting. I just think that like I don't get that same feeling with the gameplay. I mean, he describes as being open, and it is definitely more open than Trace the Courier, but it's not the same level of open that we expect from like Blackmail or life of the party and stuff like that. So that's
I
just my
think
thoughts.
you can debate on that because if as we said in the Trace the Courier episode, you can actually explore the city after the pagan is gone. You still have the opportunity, and then there is interesting stuff to do. And I think it's way more interesting to to have the opportunity to walk through the city and explore than here's not really something to explore, I think. And I know that even back in the days, the story was interesting. I think without the intense story, as I said before, it would feel even emptier. But still, there's it's very streamlined. I think that those red crystals you have to collect, they are just like in some corners, even on different difficulties. It's like, okay, this is the most creative way you could come up with. Like they just throw it into the bushes.
Doesn't that make this like Thief's first official key hunt?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Let me see. Is there anything before that?
Could you consider the
No,
cathedral mission?
in the first game, the cathedral, back to the cathedral was the key hunt.
Yep.
Okay, so it's Thief 2's first key hunt.
Yeah, and it's not really good. The cathedral was pretty cool.
I mean,
it ain't no Brother Miras.
Blackmail and First City Bank of Trust. They also have some keys. Do you have to collect them? I think it's
in
close.
Blackmail you do, I think.
Blackmail is literally a key hunt. But you're not hunting it. You just discover it. But but I think
you do have to get the silver cog, right, for the door. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but I don't know this.
I think there's a difference between needing a key to complete the mission and having to find a hidden key.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I know. I as well have this separation in my head. Like, okay, of course, it's you're looking for a key for a door, but I think it's different. Like you need some objects or keys. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I know in my head what I mean.
I mean, yeah, but the thing is, essentially, right here you need the keys because you need them to progress to the other part of the level, right? There's no other way. If we didn't know about the balcony, which I didn't know for the first 5 years of playing Thief, that silver cog is necessary to get up there, right?
Yeah, and it's important for the storytelling of the mission because, of course, they want you to go there so that the guards can come up to you and scream. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I think the schematic is basically the same.
I think also like what would have made maybe Trail of Blood a little bit better in terms of finding the gems is maybe if you had the gem, say, guarded by some like pagans, and it was kind of like a stealth challenge to like get in there and get out with the gems. But I definitely agree with like what you said, Alex. It's like they're kind of just like sitting off to the side, and it's like it doesn't make sense. Like, do the pagans not know that like these unlock the gate?
I have an explanation for that.
I mean, they know. You see that because there are those ghosts that show you that they know. Of course, they do.
Yeah, they know, and you can see through the phantasmal images, that they are surprised by the mechanist. Some are even, I think, getting killed while they're not singing but chanting or something like that. And then
I think Jake means the mechanists. I think he meant to say
Yeah.
mechanists, but he said pagans.
Oh yeah, I meant the mechanists. Like I think it would be
Hmm.
better like from a gameplay standpoint, although maybe you would have to change it from a story standpoint if like each of the gems, like say maybe you had one of them that was like in the treetops and there was like some mechanists around and like the challenge for Garrett is to get in there
Yeah.
and get out.
A challenge.
Are you
Garrett,
Correct.
and
sure
the
that mechanists
Ewoks.
know about that?
I don't think they do, but I think just it would be better maybe from a gameplay standpoint. I mean, you'd have to alter the story, but gameplay standpoint to just like have the gems be guarded so that there's like a little bit of a stealth challenge there.
That would
You know
that
what's
would
funny?
be, you know what would be cool? Like where you just mentioned, like maybe there's one up in the tree, and then there are maybe two mechanists, that are standing on the ground, and they know, oh, there's that thing up there we wanted, and then they would have a funny conversation about, hey, you can climb up there. No, my gears are all rusty or stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. That does sound like something that would like scrap from the game almost. That's perfect.
Yeah.
You know what's
Like,
really
like
funny?
how they wanted not to go into the cemetery, where they were arguing like who should go and why you shouldn't go, and yeah.
When you go through the portal, like after you get the red gems and you activate the portal, there is actually a dead mechanist inside the portal.
Yep.
So what's funny is that kind of implies that the mechanists are the ones who remove the gems from the eyes and put them away. Because
Yeah, or they have several, because there's the mother with the child, and she tells her to jump in there, and of course the courier is also you are still following him, and
yes, the pagans with their backup rubies.
yeah.
No, but there is a guy when you get into the portal room, right? And they're like, "Come," and he's like, "No, I gotta stay behind."
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe the mechanists get in, right? A couple of them that get in, and then he has to scurry off, and then later on he removes so that more of them don't really get into them, because the
Fair
hiding
enough.
places are the hiding places of pagans, right?
But is there an explanation, by the way? Because from how I see it is, the pagan is going from the cemetery into the woods through that portal, and then Garrett goes right after him. But
Yeah.
but the mechanists are still behind you, or did they already send troops into that place?
I think during the Trace the Courier, the mechanists are already there
Okay, yeah, must be.
by a different route, right?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, we don't see. I don't think the pagan in Trace the Courier activates the portal. It's already activated.
Yeah.
And the mechanists are already in the cemetery, setting up an ambush, implying that they're aware of the portal. So I think the massacre of the village occurred before the courier ever entered the portal. And then that courier goes to the portal only to find, like, he's wounded and everyone he knows is dead. He's having a bad day.
So then he's having his backup crystals and
Yes.
runs straight to the portal face, and which actually is pretty ugly. I didn't like it back in the days.
Oh yeah, the courier has to get there somehow.
Yeah,
This complicates things.
and then he has to jump in there, and the child was in there, and the mechanist was in there. But where are the rubies or gems or whatever you want to call them? This doesn't add up.
Listen, they're tricksy pagans. They keep backup rubies. We already know we can't trust them.
But where do they go when they go through the portal? Because suddenly the eyes have to be reactivated. So the gems must have been taken from there, or do they disappear? And then, like Dragon Balls, when they were used once, then they appear somewhere on the world or in the woods in this case, and that's why they are hidden behind bushes, or what is it?
The pagans are smarter than we give them credit for. It's engineered obsolescence. They want you to buy more rubies so that they can sell their backup rubies.
I thought they are the socialists here, not the capitalists.
Hey, even socialists need an economy.
I think what's. Go ahead, Jake.
Okay, I was gonna say no. I think that's where you could have that conversation, like Alex and I were talking about earlier, where you could have something where it's like oh, we took the rubies like from the face, and then we're gonna put them one's in the tree. We can't get it, and then other
It's not.
ones.
Those are mechanists, not guards.
I know. I don't know. I mean, I did a guard voice.
I'm a mechanist.
Benny became a mechanist like for a brief period.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. And you see, right? You see a mechanist falling out of the tree, and of course it's Benny.
That would be great. But yeah, you just have to have like I just think it would liven up the mission from a gameplay standpoint to have this like, okay, there's two guys guarding the ruby. I gotta get it. I have a flash bomb. I have a noise arrow. Like, what do I want to do? How do I want to approach this? Just more experimentation when it comes to gameplay.
Yeah, or some climbing with with rope arrows or something. Some. I think this mission is very flat. Even worse than other Thief 2 missions. And I think that would have been pretty cool if you would have like tree houses and you could climb up, or you need to climb up and just cover things. Yeah.
I think it's a classic case of something a fan mission did better later, right? Like Malazar's Tower has that entire tree climbing section.
Yeah.
And imagine if Trail of Blood had a similar tree climbing section.
There have been other pagan missions from fan missions that had those tree houses, or like Turning of the Leaves, also by Nicked. But yeah, there were a lot over the years. Yeah, but of course, it's again that thing. They already had the levels, and they had to fit in something, that fits for the story, and then they didn't have time, and they used what they had.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what stage of development that Trail of Blood was made at. It does feel kind of like a late development level.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably some reused stuff from the last mission of the first game. So definitely, I don't know. Could be. If someone told me it was at the beginning, I would believe it, or if it was at the end, I would believe it. But
oh yeah, this could have been some leftovers from Thief 1 or something like that. But we don't know. We can just assume. Yeah.
That's the love letter element, right?
Speaking of love letters, should we read out another comment?
I would just love that.
So if you go to page 4.
Are we looking at Frog Dude?
No, page 4, Bordenka.
Gotcha. Shall I read it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you're ready.
All right. What kind of voice does Bordenka have?
Bordenka sounds pretty rough and evil, right? Bordenka, like from a Street Fighter game or something.
As for the Trails of Blood, my opinion probably is going to be the least valid, as so far as I could experience the mission only through TEOS apostrophe playthrough. But I did some level of research on it and have some thoughts on it. My biggest idea about it is that Trails of Blood doesn't actually happen. Everything you see from the point you enter the portal to the encounter with Victoria doesn't really happen, and the whole journey is simply spiritual. Hence, why you could see the dead mechanists in the mall, still living ones in the village, and a few dead pagan ghosts.
But I got this. We didn't want to offend you. Maybe you. I think it's a man. But yeah. Thanks again. Amazing voice. That's an interesting theory, but I'm not agreeing with it.
Garrett did peyote.
No, like he said that about this that doesn't actually happen. Why shouldn't it happen? What's the idea behind it?
I do like the idea. Like it goes right back to what I was saying. You can't trust the pagans. They poisoned Garrett. They gave him some kind of experimental
like
drug.
a fever dream,
Exactly,
or something like that. Oh,
yeah, those pesky
okay.
pagans.
But
And he wakes up after his nightmare being traced by a tree beast, right? Like all of us.
Those are interpretations that are made by fans, and this, or if like people discuss a painting and what was the artist thinking, and the artist, if he would hear what they are saying, he would be like, no, I just wanted to paint, So there is no hint in the whole story that this happened, or this would be a thing, that they poison. Why should they do that? That. Yeah, of course you can.
They needed to
always
get
find
Garrett on their side.
explanations, but I think those things That's the typical fandom thing. If things don't add up in your beloved thing, in this case Thief, you make explanations so you have an explanation so it makes sense somehow. That's so typical. Like in Star Wars, it happens a lot. In Star Trek, every thing with a fan base, and something doesn't add up. People make things work, until it fits.
I think his issue or his kind of point is that he's kind of saying like, why are the ghost is kind of the thing. Like he says, hence why you could see dead mechanists in the maw. So I think like that's what his sort of theory, the crux of his theory is that like it's just a dream because you're seeing like dead ghosts. But I always
But then
interpret it.
System Shock 2 must have been a dream the whole time.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Also, is it like a similar kind of thing where I think that in Thief, like I think the reason why you see the ghosts is because it's like the maw has like magic energy or like magic power. Because we obviously know like Victoria and the Constantine had like magic power. So I'm always interpreted it as more of like he's seeing like the echoes of like the magic of the maw. So
Well, where does the eye come from? Do we know? Does the eye come from the maw?
Oh.
Because, new fan theory, if the eye comes from the maw, that means that everything that happened at the cathedral is the result of maw magic being handled by mortals. So I think that the everything might be just the result of leaking maw magic. And that would
Next,
explain the ghosts.
do you have a serious opinion on that?
On the comment as a whole?
On the theory of that is not real.
Oh, Nex agrees with me. No need to make him repeat it.
I want him to. I want to hear next. Yeah.
I really like the idea, but I think it has to be some sort of combination of if we go into the spiritual experience, it has to be sort of like a mix, because essentially he does meet up with Victoria, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I suppose he could have gone in, maybe he could have, been dreaming a little bit, but essentially he has to come to, the end. So I would prefer that idea over that it's actually happening. But it's only because I dislike the ape beasts, just being there. Not that I want to, kill them all. It's just, I'd rather they didn't exist, you know what I mean? In the universe.
Stupid man fools. Who doesn't know nothings?
I take them clumsies. But, I essentially it can't be 100% true, even though I'd love it to be.
So I think it's an interesting theory, and of course, it could happen. Like thinking of Victoria and her wicked ways. But I think then they would have made some hint, like something that would be mentioned, in the cutscene that comes afterwards. Maybe Garrett lying on the floor with his thumb in his mouth, and then she wakes him up or something like that.
yeah, I think there would have been some sort of tell, but it's a cool theory though, and I like the comment. Like it's a cool theory, like just to explore.
It's just occurred to me that Victoria is a very similar name to Terry, and Terry Brocious voiced Victoria.
Oh, that's another like making it fit.
Victoria?
Victoria, right?
Victoria?
I think we are onto something here. So,
Should we go to the next one?
Becca, thanks for your comment. And I think I will go on with my German friend. And of course, I will read it like he would, if he would have recorded it. Zulu1 made a comment. Dankeschön. My personal headcanon for Trail of Blood has not directly to do with the mission itself. It's a year or so No, that sounds more East. I don't know. Okay.
I love it. Go on.
Okay. A year or so ago, I obtained a hidden ? Sound file from the TDS files which should originally play in some old gramophone in the Wildstrom Museum. I did never hear it playing there, but maybe someone of you knows where to find it. In that sound file, you can hear Karas continuously saying repent and a woman crying in the background. In the end, you can hear her scream, which could mean that she was actually killed. Maybe or maybe not, this was taken when the mechanists took over the pagan village and Karas himself tried to interrogate some captives. I know it's a daring thesis, especially because it means Father Karas himself would leave the security of his children and panic rooms and reinforced cathedrals, which does not really fit his personality. Can't go on like that. Even in Angel Watch, he was not physically there for his guests. But nevertheless, it's fun to imagine that in the pagan village, he wanted to be the righteous to hold the mace. The sound file, I think I will edit it in as well. Did you guys listen to it on our Discord channel?
Repent, repent, repent.
I think it's made up by someone.
No, it is actually, I just looked it up. It is in Thief 3. It says, a Victrola near the Cyclopean magistrate statue plays the ambience from Beck of the Wills with the voice of Karas saying something like, repent, while a woman sobs in the background.
I think Zulu touches on this in his comment because he kind of plays devil's advocate in his own comment. But I think like by the time that those events were happening, I think Karis like had already kind of become insulated and kind of away from people because that's kind of how I interpret the game. Is that by this point, like Karis more and more like is turning more and more like to machines. You know, by the
Yep.
time obviously the game ends, he's like in his little panic room away from all living things. So I always thought by this point in the game, Karis is like completely divorced from like humanity and the living natural world.
I totally agree. I wanted first to object that, but wait, in Life of the Party, but then Zulu one already mentioned, like, yeah, he wasn't physically there, which is right. So this gives a hint. And I don't think that he would make his hands dirty, you know, like, why should he go, you know, with his mechanists folks there and, you know, what do they actually want there? Are they just there to kill pagans? I think that's their motive, right?
Yeah, but I was wondering why.
Imagine what would happen if Karis released rust gas in the maw.
Mm.
Not much, it's all stones.
Well, Garrett does remark that the natural part of the maw is still the maw. It's just kind of different. Right?
I'm still not sure if it is the maw.
Well, spring, summer, autumn, and winter are all part of the maw, right? It's Victoria influencing the growth of the maw. So if Victoria is making everything more natural and Karis released rust gas, which the effect of rust gas is compounded by natural life, it consumes it and basically it thrives off of it. Like, imagine what would happen to the real world if the maw was destroyed with rust gas.
Yeah, it would be an endless chain of
So
reaction.
all I'm saying is I can see why Karis would want to get there and you know, drop the rust gas bomb.
Yeah, but then he would kill himself. You know, he has to isolate from the rust gas as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. What the cathedral's for, because otherwise he would
Right.
kill himself.
So, but it's not, you know, it didn't happen. They didn't bring the rust gas there. So, but I don't think that Karis would have been there. That wouldn't make sense from a dramatic point of view. You know, why, you know, he's not needed for this. I think that it's just the audio file that is misleading people.
Karis is just like, go, brothers, to the maw. You do not need me. It's perfectly safe.
And you know, he could say repent in every situation to every non-believer. You know, that's some just a typical religious behavior.
Yep. So I like, just not to get too deep into like the comment like or the TDS like audio file, but I always interpret that more as like something that happened like off screen, something that happened that wasn't covered like in the events of the game. So so something like that. So I think like it's interesting to think about though, like the comment what Zulu one made, like the him being the righteous that hold the mace, but I think he would have done that before, like because you see like obviously in eavesdropping, like he meets with Truert and he's around the servants and he's like more involved with like the ground game, so to speak, of the mechanists. But I just interpret that like by this time, like he's just like, I don't even want to be around people anymore. I don't want to be around any living organisms. He just becomes more and more of an extremist in his ideology as the game goes on. So
Yep, I think that that makes sense to me. And I would say that the audio file that is leading to this idea, I would say, could have been recorded anywhere.
yeah, I agree.
There's no indication. There are no wood sounds in the background or anything. That then I would say, oh yeah, this could be, but I don't agree.
Crickets
Good
chirping.
point. Those will-o'-the-wisps are pretty loud.
Just hear wood being chopped, crickets and bugs and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
or
the
the tree
screaming.
beasts.
The tree
Yeah.
beasts.
Screaming of the slaughtered pagans.
Yeah, but it could be slaughtered people. Vagabonds. It's street scum. I don't know what Truart said, but
Yep.
yeah, it's a theory, but I personally won't agree.
I think it's fun to entertain, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I would not say that I think it's very solid.
So, and why would someone take a huge recording device into the woods, just to record Karis like talking to to nobody pagan?
Well, Karis is very self-important. I think Karis would take recording devices anywhere he went, to be honest.
Yeah, there's an audio clip of him saying he has his record player. Seth. Seth knows the one.
I have this record player.
Yeah. So let's read a positive comment. And if you guys go click on the Twitter thing, let's read Galadin's comment. Maybe Jake, you can go on with that.
Sure. Galadin says via Twitter, my favorite mission in all Thief games, and it's mainly because of the atmosphere. The music, especially, is both mystical and tragic, such a bittersweet combination. Ever since I was a kid, I was in love with that beautiful forest with gigantic trees, and I wanted to live there.
I agree with that.
Yep.
The music
Common
was a
line.
big draw for me.
Yep. One of the best parts, I think, of the mission.
That's interesting because I read the comments and then I replayed it 2 days ago or something, and I was trying to, listen to the music on purpose, but I don't know. Is it that special, really? Because I think she's not the only one who mentions it. And
Yeah, but the music is coupled with a lot of like really static ambient tracks, and if you turn up the ambient sound and you walk through the mission quietly, it shifts from area to area, right? Like it does form almost a musical narrative. So I completely understand all the people saying that they like the music.
what I think is interesting that she says it's my favorite mission in all Thief games. That is something where I would think, okay, if this is your opinion, I'm fine with it. But why do you play Thief then? Because this is like such an untypical Thief mission. This is a mission that has nothing to do with the things that define Thief and make it so great, in my opinion.
I mean, if I may, I would say that it's absolutely a typical Thief mission in that the very last mission of Thief 1 was a linear mission taking place in the Maw. And here we have a linear mission taking place in the Maw at a critical narrative point in Thief 2. So I would say it's actually like very typical of a Thief mission, just perhaps not everyone's favorite or to everyone's taste.
But from a gameplay point of view, I don't think so. This is, Thief stands for open environments, exploring, being sneaky and discover the secrets and stuff like that, and nothing of of that is happening here. It's just a tragedy that happened, yeah, and you are coming right after it. But
I think
yeah.
it's. I think I think the reason why you disagree is because you're more of a Thief 2 fan. I would say probably the same, even though.
Well, I would concede that it is not Thief playing to its strengths, right? Like Thief's, as you say, Thief's strengths are open missions where you have multiple objectives that take place at different parts of the level, and you can complete them in any order, and that feels great. But this is Thief trying to have a linear story that takes you from A to B, and we all know that that is not how. That's Thief isn't at its best when you're going directly from A to B.
Yep.
I definitely agree with that. I think like what you said, like it definitely is like not the core of the gameplay, the best of the gameplay of Thief, and like you touched on that too, Seth. But it's like we did when we did our like why we love Thief episode. Like we listed so many reasons like why we like Thief, and I can see why somebody would like this mission because the atmosphere is really great. The ambient tracks are awesome. So like it's not my favorite mission either. I definitely prefer the more open missions. But like there's so many different reasons like why we love Thief, and we can kind of pick out different ones that are still in this mission, even though like I definitely agree, like gameplay wise, like it's not the strongest, but it has some other strong elements. So I not my favorite either, but I can definitely see why somebody would
So,
think that.
so I think the way I got to know Galadine is, I think she's a very sensitive character. Of course, she mentions the music, and I think that for her the emotional parts of this mission, and of course they are there because a tragedy happened, and you see dead children actually, and you know who killed them. It was not the hunger. It's not a child that's lying around on the street where you can, okay, maybe they starved, but here like people killed these children, and the pagans, they couldn't defend themselves and they went ready or whatever. So yeah, on that note, I can see that a bit.
Yeah.
But favorite mission is interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, perfectly like valid. Not my favorite, but I mean, I can see why somebody would. And what kind of like what you just said, Alex. Like you were kind of touching on, like there's a difference between like the horrors of nature and like the horrors of man. And like this mission totally gives you like that the horrors of man. With like the slaughtering families and destroying villages, and it's very much the opposite of the first game where it's like nature out of control, and the second game is technology and sort of humanity like out of control. So
Yep.
shall we read another Twitter comment?
I would like to get in
What?
here because she's describing how the forest is very dear to her. She wanted to live there, stuff like that, and I think one thing that really hit me, because when I was replaying this mission for the podcast, as with every mission, you sort of you go through with a finer comb. You're not just running through it. So I rediscovered some things there that I really like, and that final part, the area where Seth got hit in the face by a tree.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
Yeah, the blood there actually isn't from the pagan, but it's Seth's after he.
It's my facial leakage.
Yeah, but that forest there at the end, it really differs from the forest at the beginning, right? And of course, this is where we then meet Victoria, and this must be the deep forest, the dark forest. I really love the ambience there. I really love the amount of trees there are, the size of them, because they're much bigger than before, right? And it's just an amazing thing. But I want to touch on one thing since we're here. Or actually, Alex, stop me if this is not the right time.
Go on.
Is the question, is this the Maw gonna come in later, or should we discuss it now?
I'm open for it.
All right. So, some people think it's the Maw. Some are more skeptical. I'm like in the middle. If this was actually the Maw, the only way I would go for it, because I don't is Victoria living in the Maw? Maybe that's the information that I'm missing. I feel like she's not living in the Maw. I always pictured her, her in just the woods, right? I also
Yep.
pictured the pagans in the woods.
Yep.
Maybe ape beasts would live in the Maw. But here's my theory. I would say it is the Maw, but the ape beasts are not. Then, but either way, I would say it is the Maw once you go through the mouth portal. But I would say you exit the Maw when you go through over the bridge.
From winter to summer?
Um,
Uh,
I,
Wait, no, that's before the villages. Before the villages, you go through the portal, right?
Yes.
You have the weird place with the eyes and stuff, and there are a couple of ape beasts, and they are guarding the what I would call exit from the Maw, right? You go through because what's that bridge? It has no explanation to it. It is clearly magical, and then
Oh, yeah, the
all,
bridge that's orange.
yeah, and everything after that, it's again, it feels normal to me. It feels like this could be in not the Maw.
I get you. I get you.
outside the mall. So one thing I'm thinking of isn't the maw, if I translate it, isn't it something like a throat, which goes down and deep?
Yeah, like the jaw, the maw.
Right. And the maw from the first game, that was going down and deep.
Yeah,
But
everything was
here
kind of on a downward slope.
and here it's more like a cave system with different themes, which would make sense because, of course, they are appreciating nature there. But the Maw was more by the trickster, and Victoria was more this, this pagan, yeah, maybe the pagan Jesus, walking on Earth. So as you said, I always imagined her more living in the creepy deep woods in the forest. And this is just some, of course, they use magic and stuff like that. And this is just some strange cave system, with the same pagan energy that was also used by the trickster. And, but, or maybe it's an outside part of the maw, or, or just a, like a post, an outpost from
I
the
have a,
maw.
I have a fun idea. So you've just finished playing Thief 1. Say you played Thief 1 right before you put the install disk in for Thief 2. At that point, do you trust Victoria?
Of course not.
Right. She just stole your freaking eye. So here's my thought. I think Trail of Blood is trying to humanize and make relatable Victoria.
Yep.
And I think that Garrett deliberately says, "Is this the Maw?" Because they're trying to lead the player to a narrative conclusion, which is that, oh, like the Maw energy has changed since the Trickster was in charge. Now Victoria's in charge. Things are different. We're under new management. So I think that there are 4 seasons because 4 seasons are relatable and predictable. And we want Victoria to be a relatable ally. We don't want her to be an unpredictable demon affiliated with the Trickster anymore. So
I like that.
yeah, that's my short form theory, is that this level is actually trying to get the player to just be on Victoria's side. She's not who you thought she was. This is what Victoria would do with the Maw if she was in charge.
Yeah, give it that little female touch, bring everything in order and make it nice.
I definitely agree for sure. Like, because if you just go and you don't have that like thematically with the rest of the game, like, and the game is like, all right, now you're siding with the pagans in Victoria. You'd be like, the player would be like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah, there's no narrative
they tried to kill me,
justification.
like, they just tried to kill me like in the last game. So it's like, I definitely think that I completely agree with your theory, Seth. I think it's humanizing them.
I can imagine like Terry Brocious, that this would be her way of, thinking. Like, okay, we are going to we have to sympathize with Victoria, we have to be allies after this. So how can we psychologically create a mission that slowly, without telling you, but gives you a more comfortable feeling, and or a more reliable feeling. Yeah,
I
I
think a
agree.
lot of
That's interesting.
I think a lot of people would describe the mission as cozy. It's a cozy mission.
Yeah, especially and the pagans nowadays when they meet, hey, let's meet at the place where Seth got hit in the face. That's the official name.
There we go.
It's very cozy with the APs. Okay, they are friends with the pagans. So, do you guys think that the APs are like equal in the society, or are they like some kind of, or are they the guards of the pagans, and the pagans are like the nobles of the woods?
I think it's an egalitarian society. They both speak the same way. The question is, do the pagans speak like ape beasts, or do the ape beasts speak like human pagans?
I think
Mhm.
last.
Yep.
I think they adapted. The pagans
Aha.
are influenced human. They are humans, and so they learned some language, and the apes adapted to that. I don't know. Maybe they are just like, didn't shave. Maybe they are human.
It's funny that you mentioned shaving, because I was just thinking, like, oh, the ape beasts in Thief 1 really had to shave down to look like guards. And like this, the reason their appearance has changed in Thief 2 is because they've let their hair grow out.
They look like Alf.
They do.
Or Chewbacca. I think they are totally different. I think that's the other thing. Like those apes are a bit fluffy and more
More
not so
friendly?
creepy. And the other ones were trickster ape beasts.
Exactly. Yeah, they're gray. They're evil.
Yeah.
They're less relatable. I really do. Now that I think of it, I really do think this mission is a bridge. Right? It's a bridge between the player and their new ally.
It's a very interesting theory, and I could imagine.
It does give it a little bit of a better taste.
Yeah. I find myself thinking the same thing every time we do a mission that I don't really enjoy on the podcast. It's like, oh, okay. It's better now. I hope it's the same for.
So let's go on with the next comment from RSD, also from the Twitter right beneath. I go on with it. RSD, all design is artifice, I think.
Artifice.
Artifice, I'm sorry. A welcome return to pagan themes that were otherwise largely absent in Thief 2. Interesting layout, which I found somewhat reminiscent of Escape, which makes sense given the trickster's goals in the first game. A big improvement from the awful Trace the Courier as well. Love it.
I bet RSD was playing Trace the Courier on Expert.
No, it's just a bad mission. On every, I replayed it on easiest and hardest difficulty, and no. Escape. Which one was Escape?
Escape is right after you get your eye stolen.
Ah, yeah, of course. Yeah, but this is more of a Thief 2 approach. Yeah, it's more cozy. Not as creepy and freaking in the architecture, and not as disorientating. And it's good that it's the only time where you go to pagan territory.
I
like it.
Yeah, I like that somebody mentioned Escape, because that's a mission that I frequently forget about when we're talking about Thief 1. Escape is like, it's like the stepchild nobody wants to talk about. Escape's a fun mission, but it is linear.
Yeah, and I didn't like it. It was too it was just overcrowded by enemies, and that was the challenge. And I think that's not a good thing.
Overcrowded is definitely a good word for it. I watched a friend play through it recently, and he had the same remark: is that, like, how am I actually supposed to make it through this mission? This is not very thiefy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing here, because this mission is doable on every. It's a very easy mission, to be honest. I think the hardest part are maybe the tree beasts, but you can avoid them if you know how. And on expert, I think there is this fully metalled mechanist walking around close to the portal face where you put in the gems. He's the only real challenge. If and even his, he has such a long way around it, so it's very easy to avoid him as well. So yeah.
One thing about that guy, if I can,
Yeah, of course.
the mask or the helmet that he's wearing, weren't those specifically designed for the servants? Do we see mechanists use them a lot?
No, that's a different kind of. This is a fully metal helmet, and I think the servants just have those masks, and the rest is more soft.
I think it's implied that some of the mechanists are voluntarily giving up their humanity to become machines. Because they do have a servant voice, do they not?
No. They speak like normal.
I think they speak normal. Yeah. Maybe it's just the image, a gesture or something.
Maybe it's mostly.
Oh, maybe they're just cosplay. They're cosplaying as servants.
No, they are just like they are, I think some higher guards, or like some elite guards or whatever you want to call them.
It's a kinky role play.
Or a transition, that maybe they already show a transition, like Next just said, that they are more devout to the lifestyle of the mechanists.
Yeah, devout.
Machines. Yeah.
Daddy Karras.
Yeah.
Looking at a screenshot, I will say it's pretty obvious that they're not servants because like their eyes and mouth are exposed, whereas with the servants, those are all covered up.
It's a helmet. They are like the equivalent to those guards with those neck plates on the helmet. You can only knock them out with a sword.
Indestructible Aventail.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Who's next?
Let's go to the frog dude thing. So first, maybe Jake, you want to read frog dude's little comment from our Discord?
Yeah. So
Frog baby.
Sure. So Frog Dude says, probably the most touching Thief original mission, and the music is simply gorgeous. The tree beasts in the end are the icing. I think he meant icing on the cake, but icing in the cake, the accumulation of the entire journey. I have a feeling the whole experience is so tight because both Terry and Eric worked hand in hand for it. As far as I know, Trail of Blood is Terry's baby.
And then EHC Mir, sorry, guy, I never know how to spell your name. He said, Ekmir. And he said, it was a big deal to her. And then Frog Dude said, Jake.
And it became a big deal for all of us. After Trail of Blood, Thief officially became my favorite game. He says, I played Thief 2 first. Been this way ever since.
And then Zulu1 said, list of most overused but iconic items in Thief fan missions. 3, Lord Buffett's scepter. 2, Horn of Quintus. 1, and then Brethren came in. Seth?
Dewdrop, of course.
Yeah, that's how he sounded. And that's an offense. Like Dewdrop. Dewdrop is one of the best things in Thief there is.
Dewdrop was broken on release though. Why does everyone like Dewdrop so much? Why do you like Dewdrop, Alex?
Let's first go to the Frog Dude and Esamir comment.
Let's do it.
I like as well. They are like Geladin, like they are touched by this mission, and they are more on the emotional side of things, which I really like. It's not like me, the cold-hearted gameplay freak. So yeah, that's like almost the same, I would say. And they mentioned the music. I don't know how white tree beasts are the icing of the cake.
Because they emotionally scarred us all.
Now that we know that they beat you in the face, of course, it's a real, it's the highlight of the mission. But yeah, I think it's a thing of taste. Of course, they leave an impression on you.
Tastes like bark.
Yeah. Yeah. But the dewdrop. Let's discuss that. Until some days ago, I think it was also Zulu who posted this video of the dewdrop that when you are followed by mechanists and you have dewdrop in your inventory, then suddenly she appears in the air and she's hovering, and then she blinds the mechanists.
What? This is what?
Yep, we saw it on the
breaking it
video.
live.
You should
Breaking it
really,
live.
you should really follow the community stuff more next. There's interesting stuff there. And then I tried it, and it actually works.
Well, it's a piece of code that I think is broken before New Dark, but I think New Dark restored it. It's a functionality Dewdrop was supposed to have, but the Dewdrop didn't have on release.
Yep. Yeah, that's
That's my
understandable
understanding.
too. That's understandable too, because like it's kind of a weird mechanic that's like not really like in the rest of the game. You know, like it's a unique kind of one-off thing, so I can understand why it'd be broken. But yeah, I also did not know this until a couple days ago until the community shared it. So like my mind was blown. I was like, "Whoa, I can't believe this is like something that was in the game and I just never knew about it." So just why Thief is so incredible.
I
Good.
did the same thing as Alex. I went and tested it too, and I was like, wow, if this had been my first time experience, this would have made a big difference.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's not very useful. First of all, you are in general not followed by them if you play the game like intended. You know, like knocking all the guards out. Of course, until you come up to that bridge, they are all sleeping. You know,
Sleeping?
Yeah, taking a dirt nap.
Yeah.
Ah, I see. I see. Well-
I just give you the link next.
I mean, if you're talking about the usefulness of Dewdrop, didn't really help the child, did it?
Oh God!
Oh, I
Oof.
like that.
So this adds a whole new layer to the character of Dewdrop.
End of next.
Dewdrop doesn't like children, apparently. Just adult males who like to hide.
No. The child made one mistake because you have to be followed by 2 guards or more, as far as I got it. And maybe she was just followed by 1 guard. So stupid little child, I would say.
She didn't read the base code.
Yeah. The instructions manual, you know.
I mean, here you have an unarmed child. A Dewdrop does nothing, and then you see a guy stacked up with military equipment up to his teeth, and it's like, yeah, I'll blind him. I'll save you.
Well, what are children but uncompiled code, right?
Seth, but did it for you also happen just at the bridge?
Yeah, that is the only place that I had that Dewdrop would activate for me.
Okay, so I think it's bound to that place.
But only like, 10 years after the first time I played this mission. It definitely didn't do that the first time.
Yeah, and I think normally you are not followed by several guards at one time, you know.
I think the Will-o'-the-Wisps are nodes that Dewdrop can activate at. So I think Dewdrop can also activate near the garden with the Scarecrow, and over either of the
Okay.
bridges in the first area.
Okay. Yeah, but it's great that we still learn new things, you know, from this 21-year-old game.
It's almost as old as me.
Yeah.
I just checked the clip. This is amazing.
Yeah, but just because we find out now, you know, it's when you test it, it's like, yeah, okay, they are blinded quickly, you know, and then they chase you again. Okay, maybe the intention was that while they are blinded, you get the opportunity to run to the face, put in the gems, and then jump into the portal. Maybe that was the intention.
Dewdrop is related to the backup rubies.
She's powered by them.
Dewdrop is plan B.
It was Dewdrop all along, planned the whole thing.
She's
I mean,
like
and
the
what-
Furby of the pagans.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dewdrop's a Victoria analog.
I mean, let's just look at the facts, right? So the dewdrop didn't save the child, right? And then when it's saving us, it floats up in the air. It's a child's doll, by the way. It floats up in the air, starts glowing red and speaking, right? I don't think dewdrop is nice. You know what I mean?
I think it's a force for good. I think it's a force for perhaps evil.
Yeah, I think it's just fucked up. Yeah.
We're gonna have a whole series of movies called Dewdrop now.
No,
Dewdrop
but
is a streaming character. Sorry.
what I'm very offended is like, Zulu 1 came up like the list of most overused but iconic items in Thief is Lord Buffett's scepter. I agree. Horn of Quintus, I agree. But Dewdrop, like, and I think that's what I wrote right on the on the Discord. Like, yeah, but what about moss arrows, water arrows, fire arrows, and those little flares? They are very overused as well. I think Dewdrop is always just a nice, humorous touch. And like something,
I'll tell you what's overused: light sources.
Sound.
Doing less of those.
guards and floors. Yeah, I agree. But I think Dewdrop is always a nice touch. Of course, she is another inventory slot that you have to cycle through, but it's a nice one.
What are you talking about? I have Dewdrop bound to a hotkey.
Of course. You
So I love Dewdrop so much.
but you don't have hotkeys on your keyboard, so you can't use her either.
Hey,
don't
man.
you have just WASD and space?
No, I have 40% of all the keys on a full-size keyboard. Thank you very much.
I have 40%. Okay. I have 120%, so
Oh, I'm jealous. I do miss it.
you can have some of my keys.
Yeah, some of your fingers too to operate all of them.
But do you guys, what are your thoughts about Dewdrop? I always think it's a nice touch when I find one.
I'm not a Dewdrop fan.
I think it's one of the items in Thief.
I agree.
It's
That's
cool
all.
because I think it's cool because like just kind of what it like represents and just kind of it is just so strange because like most of the items that you use in the game are like items that are like very naturalistic. Like I mean they're kind of fantastical, but like arrows and bombs and things like that, mines. But then you have this like haunted doll that you can also use. So it's kind of like it's strange in that regard.
And she's sometimes good if you have like platforms that need some weight, and sometimes she works on them.
This feels a lot like an Indiana Jones movie all of a sudden.
Yeah, or she's like a little bird, where there's a platform, maybe it activates a trap, and then you just throw that little doll on it.
Nice.
Sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, how those birds? How do you call them?
I guess-
Kanarienvögel.
Yes, that's what we call them.
Canaries? I don't know. We call them Kanarienvögel.
Canary sounds about right.
Yeah, canaries.
There,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, then.
Oh, like a canary in the coal mine.
Yeah,
I
right.
get you. I do wonder though, like, why do so many people like Dewdrop?
Because it's charming. It's just a nice reminder of a dead child.
Yeah.
I think also
And I was worried about my introduction with the period.
makes complete sense. I need to remember the dead children.
it's also one of those things that's like it's kind of a deep cut of Thief. Like if you've only played the game like once, you might have forgotten about Dewdrop or you might not have seen it. But like if you're like a Thief veteran or you're really familiar with the game, you probably know Dewdrop. So it's kind of like almost like a secret handshake, in my opinion. Like oh Dewdrop. Like it's like one of those kind of it's a little bit more obscure of the game. It's not like oh yeah the blackjack, the water arrows. It's a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure when we have the Thief Rendezvous in 2023, I'm going to shake everyone's hand and whisper Dewdrop in their ear.
Exactly.
Are Thief
And
rendezvous?
then I throw you on a platform to see if it's a trap. Boom.
And steal my eye and fingers too.
Yep.
Are there really Thief rendezvous?
I wish. Let's make it a thing.
Yeah, let's all.
Stop confusing him.
What?
Well, now it has to happen. Yeah, Thief Expo, the expo where we all play fan missions and show off the latest innovations in New Dark.
Yeah, to get the invitation, you have to follow the courier. He's got the invitation.
Exactly.
Follow him and you get it.
Yeah. So I think we should go on with the comments.
Probably wise.
I agree.
Let's take another YouTube one, the Dolkey. Next, do you want to go on with this one?
Can you link?
On the link on the left, you see all the headlines, and then you see the different names underneath. It's YouTube and then Dolkey. Okay,
Yeah,
you're
do
not
it,
on
do it.
the you have it.
Yeah, I do have it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks to Seth. Thank you. All right, so Dalkey writes, It's a good return of the tricksters and Victoria's shenanigan thing. Pretty linear, but I think it's because Looking Glass Studios were saving the feeling of being lost and despair for the last mission in the game. Thank God they were saving that. The theme you hear upon entering the ravaged pagan village is very memorable, to me at least. And the fact that you can actually take the dead girl's doll, Dewdrop, with its own 3D model despite having no use at all, is wow. I like the idea of having to go through all 4 seasons to get to the end, as it helps you determine the progress. The mission has a lot of awesome stuff that we never see in the game ever again. I'm not complaining about it though. Also, the enemy is not in the trees. It is the trees.
My face.
Yeah, it still hurts. But what I just recognized, we always see the pagans as like those poor guys. They are living in the 4 seasons. Literally.
Literally, they're living in the 4 seasons.
What I
Do.
really like is I hope Dolkey that we now could enlighten you as well with the Dewdrop that actually does something nowadays, the new model. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Well, hopefully he
Go
listens
on,
to the
I'm
show.
dying.
No, live.
I'm
But
alive.
good. So no, I think that Dolkey's gonna have his mind blown if he listens to the show because that dead girl's doll is not useless. So well, depending on what version of the game you're playing. But,
With New Dark, it's not useless.
so, but he's
With
definitely in the
Old
same
Dark.
Yeah, with Old Dark. He's definitely in the same situation we were before the community shared that with us.
Some days ago, yeah.
So
You're living in the past.
Really, Dolkey, what a fan are you? Huh? No, I like the last sentence as also. Also, the enemy is not in the trees; it is the trees. Yeah, actually, that's a great sentence.
that'd be a
Takes me
great
back
line
to-
for a Thief movie.
Well, it takes me back to Lord of the Rings, the Twin Towers, when they start chopping down the forest. Kill the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, yeah, they were cool. I think that Tolkien was inspired by Thief.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you heard it here first. Boom. But I think the rest of the comment we already covered most of this. I like Tricksters and Victoria's shenanigans. It's nice.
I will say, I do think that the 4 seasons is something interesting that we don't see in other Thief missions, except the removed Mage's Towers mission from Thief the Dark Project, which we didn't see till Thief Gold.
Which was before Thief 2.
Yes, but that's only 2 missions in all, 24, 26 missions
And
of
it
the
also
OMs?
sucks.
My God, Alex. I didn't like Mage's Towers either, but that's for another day.
Yeah, there's a lot before we will come there. But yeah, so yeah, Dolkeys, thanks for the comment and thanks for the funny last sentence.
Yeah, it was really well written comment.
Seth, would you go on with the TBD one right beneath?
Yeah, what kind of voice does TBD have?
Yours.
Oh, that's boring, but I'll oblige.
It has Benny. Now make it a nice voice, please.
I could try Benny if you
Jake,
want.
can you read?
I'll read it.
No,
All
Seth. I'm kidding. Oh God, we are all so confused. So
I'm so
please go
excited.
on. Give
got
give us your best.
My best, Benny.
Yeah, it's TBD. The B has to stand for something with Benny. I'm sure.
To Benny determined.
The Benny dude.
It's a good change of pace before the game starts. Just chucking behemoth levels like life of the party at you. It's a great change of pace in terms of setting as well. A good contrast between all the mechanical stuff in Thief 2. For some baffling reason, Thief fans and even Looking Glass Studios themselves balked at the lack of supernatural in Thief 2 compared to the Dark Project / Gold.
Could you
Sorry.
please go on with the normal voice because
Go
I think
on.
it's really hard to follow if you're not reading it.
Absolutely. When between this mission and the ending of the one before, the basement and eavesdropping, the servants, the zombie tower, the library and Gervasius mission, all of Sabotage's Soulforge, and the literal murder you witnessed in Blackmail, not to mention the ever-present creepiness of Karis and his voice. There are more than enough horror elements in this game. This mission is an obvious nexus point for the side of Thief in Garrett's second adventure. How good is the mission overall? Well, it's called Trail of Blood, so we know it's about following a path and not stealth. For a somewhat linear adventure feeling, it comports itself admirably. Enough puzzles, characters, creatures, and atmosphere to work. There are entire video games that have the same approach, Journey for example, that aren't 1/5 as engaging as this mission. It's a bit of a sightseeing tour at times, and a transparent sacrifice of gameplay for story. But when your story is as good as Thief's, and the character is as important as Victoria, there's not very much to complain about.
Mm.
Yeah, thanks for the comment, TBD, and thanks for changing your voice.
Benefication is hard.
Yeah, and especially hard to listen to over several. You can do it again in a very short comment, I would say.
You got it.
It's a bit of a. I like that it's a bit of a sightseeing tour at times and a transparent sacrifice of gameplay for story. But when your story is as good as Thieves, yeah, that's what I said. Like the story is, I think, the driving character here. And I don't agree with the you read Trail of Blood and you know that it's like following something and not like stealth or whatever. I think you could combine it, but and of course it's stealth still. You have to hide, but
It's more of a spy mission. Like, at least that's the assumption, right? Like, you just played Trace the Courier. You assume the Trail of Blood is not going to be terribly different. But I guess that's what the eyeball room is for, right? It's to tell you that this mission is different.
Yeah, the sightseeing aspect actually is pretty cool. So I think they tried to make it interesting. At especially at the end, I would say you have those eyeballs, and then you have to I think it's the first time you have to destroy ice. If I'm
Absolutely.
correct.
Yeah, you can't progress if you don't chop it up.
But I don't think you ever had to do it in a earlier mission in both games, right?
No, I think that there was a mission where you could break some icicles, but you didn't have to.
Yeah. So this is a nice touch. I think it's nice to get to know this mechanic, which I think was never used again. But yeah, I like the sightseeing aspect. And looking through those glasses, I could see, yeah, okay, I can see the plus sides of this mission now. This was convincing, TBD, to me at least.
It's a good comment. I think though that to answer kind of something in his comment, he says, he's like, I'm not sure why fans and Looking Glass kind of don't have some hesitation when it comes to the supernatural. Then in his comment, he says, this mission's linear and it doesn't really have like the stealth gameplay, and I think that's kind of why we've touched on that in a previous episode. But like sometimes with the supernatural stuff, the stealth is not quite clicking all the way. So I think like to kind of speak to that point. I think that's kind of why people have some issues with the mission and the supernatural stuff. Is sometimes the stealth is not always the best, but that's just me.
It depends. I think the stealth, you have more pressure, especially when you have an enemy like the Hans that you cannot knock out with a blackjack or something like that. I think it can actually add to the stealth mechanics.
I knock Hans out with my sword.
For sure, but I think just like based on like the discussions that we've had in previous episodes and just like listening, like seeing what the community, I think like there's a certain group of people obviously that prefer like the guards, mansions, and sort of the more like naturalistic kind of things in Thief, and those that definitely prefer the more like supernatural. So I think that's why, because there's just kind of a difference in like preference of stealth, like you mentioned, Alex. Like there's an appeal of like us having an enemy like Haunts and certain other supernatural enemies that can't really just be blackjacked as easily. But I think some people don't like that, and some people prefer like having the enemies where it's just like, boom, blackjack, hide the body, good to go. So I think that's kind of the sort of divide that he's speaking of in his comment between like the supernatural and the stealth and stuff like that.
I cannot imagine that anybody would play it the way you just described, like knocking out people. I think it's disgusting, but yeah, of course, you guys, everybody can.
Yes, we know that the true way to play is ghost 100%, not being seen. But
Yeah, and I think it's very bad if the mission is not designed ghostable. That's that's an affront to the players.
I can't abide these black jack-offs.
Next, anything you want to add to that, or
I'm fine.
okay? That's good. So thanks TBD, and let's go on with Jay. I think I go on with that one. Jay on YouTube. A mission with some great exposition. First, we further see the cruelty of the mechanists and the massacred pagans, and even Garrett seems to show a bit of disdain when he says these people didn't have a chance against the mechanists. Secondly, the contrast between the pagan village and the mall is impressive to me. I liked that the mechanists looked dominant in the village, but in the beast's territory, they were all either dead or reduced to bones. It really feels like you're in the middle of a huge conflict. Gameplay-wise, I think collecting all the loot while maintaining ghosts is really fun. The map itself is linear, but that's to be expected in this important part of the story. It's certainly far better than Trace the Courier, and Thief wants more of chaos. I'll agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Somehow.
Yeah. I think that though, like we're kind of seeing some like a pattern with like some people basically kind of, that are okay with the linearity, and I am too. I think like it's okay being more linear than say like First Bank or something like that. I think there just maybe could have been a couple more, not to keep going over it, but just a couple more areas where there could have been a little bit more decision making. But it's a really good comment, and I like how he picked out that line of the Garrett line. These people didn't have a chance against the mechanists. I think that is a really important like line to kind of illustrate that point of like you're in the middle of this conflict between the pagans and the mechanists, and kind of also giving Garrett some sort of characterization, because he's kind of in a way he's kind of acknowledging that these people have been massacred and that this is a horrible thing that just happened, and it kind of adds to his character and it adds to the story. So great comment.
Well, even Garrett has his limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important that Garrett shares some empathy, and it shows his human side. It's the same like with the Cetus project mission, where the pagan is in that freezer, and he asks Garrett to kill him, and he says yes, my friend. With empathy, I think this is important to this sarcastic dude, that always acts like cold and he doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he definitely, like Garrett as a character is definitely motivated a lot by self-interest, but he also has like he has like a moral and ethical code. We've talked about this before, but he has like a moral and ethical code that he doesn't like to see innocent people get hurt. He steals from he usually steals from people that are fairly wealthy. He doesn't usually
He steals from everyone. Garrett
he does,
grabs every coin on the street next to a beggar. He doesn't care.
He does, but there's definitely more of like he's not Robin Hood, but there is a little bit to his character. He definitely targets like Lord Bafford and Ramirez. Like he targets wealthier people more often. But yes, he will just kind of coins and just like shove them in his pocket. But
He kisses the beggar after he takes his coin.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Yeah, so Jay, thanks for your comment. And anything else you guys want to add?
oh no, that was a really I think he did a really good job of boiling a lot down in a really succinct manner. It was really good.
So Jake, you want to go on? Oh, sorry.
I think Garrett's whoever you play him as. Your Garrett might kill or he might blackjack. Your Garrett might ghost. Your Garrett might trigger every alarm in the place and trip over his toes on the way out. You know what I mean? Like Garrett is kind of all of us.
Yeah, I agree. But, with comments like that, he gives himself some character that could maybe, if you play like a slaughterer, could maybe, not fit.
Yeah, there'd be some dissonance between like his character and your play style.
Does he ever say he doesn't like killing though? Except on expert difficulty? I guess that means there's expert Garrett and normal Garrett. The rest of the Garretts are all of us.
I think Garrett doesn't want to kill if not necessary.
Isn't there a line? I might be making this up, but isn't there a line where he says like like I'm not a something about like I'm a thief, not an assassin or something?
I think that's an objective in Thief 1, where there's a mission in which he says you're a thief. It's not Garrett himself, but the objective says you're a thief, not a killer.
It's the voice in his head that tells him, like, the voice that gives him the objectives every time.
Yes.
And yeah. That actually is something where I think, why did they choose to make it like a third party, that is telling you those things?
Because Garrett's an obsessive compulsive thief. He's a klepto.
Wouldn't it be cool if the goals, the objectives would have been written in the personal form?
Yeah, I agree.
But
there's some fan missions that do it.
Maybe they did it because sometimes he gets a job from somebody else, but still, they wouldn't tell him certain topics. There's always this like, hey, we know that you are here for this certain item to grab, but doesn't mind to put something in your own pockets. Wink, wink.
It's because Garrett goes to every employer and says, I need an itemized list, please. I won't take this job if you don't give me a checklist.
Yeah, right.
A checklist only kind of thief.
Next, anything you want to add?
I'm good.
Okay. Damn it. Stop smoking, people. Don't smoke. So next, do you want to go on with reading Ollie the Autist?
Sure.
Yeah. So Sure.
Really like it. I was always a fan of Thief's first missions, like down in the Bone Horde and the original Dark Project Lost City. I feel it's a good change of pace. Aside from Trail of Blood, you face the same few mechanists over and over. You also get a good world building for pagans, like the little house with the girl who gives you her doll, or the weird room where the eye plants the eye plants that always look at you. The level, like pretty much, it's the level, like pretty much all classic Thief levels, makes the space feel real despite the dated graphics, and each one is unique and fun in its own way. aside from Thief's Guild. Trail of Blood is definitely the most unique mission in Thief 2 and one of my favorites.
Thanks, Nex. I think I agree with the first part. I would actually, the world building here is very important, and it is a fresh paint to what we discovered before. But is it the most unique mission? That's debatable, in my opinion.
I think it's unique in its use of sound. Like I don't think any other mission goes so far to make you feel the way that Trail of Blood tries to make you feel.
I would agree with that part. I would add that it's unique when it comes to sound and its
looks.
visuals. Yeah.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's far from unique.
I think
That's enough, right?
of course, uniqueness nowadays is hard to tell, because we had everything over and over again over fan missions. But I think that, for example, the Sabotage at Soulforge is very unique. Masks is very unique. So for me, it has a unique theme with following the Trail of Blood actually is some unique topic I think we didn't have before. But I don't know. Yeah, you can say it's unique because it's very streamlined and the gameplay is not so great. Then it's pretty unique. Otherwise, there are other missions in Thief 2 that are similar unique in that regard.
Yeah, depends on what you're looking at, right?
Yeah, of course.
I would say the
Gameplay-wise, I would say no.
Yeah, gameplay-wise, no, but the rest, yeah. But
Of
yeah,
course, if you have a game full of city and houses and then there's one forest mission, of course, it's very unique. Like the Cradle was very unique.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with everything.
That's the other mission where I got hit in the face.
Yeah, so yeah, what didn't they build it right next to the place where Seth got hit in the face?
Yeah, it's right next door.
To the plaza.
You get hit in the face by a tree beast, you get hit in the face by a guy wearing a bird cage on his head. All in a day's work.
Oh, the Cradle. We should discuss that one day. But yeah,
or one night.
No, but what I really like here on this comment is like the world building aspect pointed out. I think that's really actually something I didn't think of so much until now. Like, yeah, this really gave you an impression of the other party. Hammerrites are gone. Now we have the Mechanists, but the pagans are still there. And they are alive, and yeah. That's really important, actually. Good point, Ollie.
I think the next comment by Mountain Pepsi is to the same point, right? Mountain Pepsi says, I really grew to like the mission. It's interesting to see the pagan village and their way of life, for lack of better words. I also like that it's a new version of the Maw, right? So I think that's touching on the same points, right?
Yeah, I think this goes into the same direction. Of course, I sorted those comments and,
cherry picked them.
No, I just copy pasted them from all our sources. Yeah, but yeah, as I said, I didn't think of that so much until now. So a very good point. And I think now you can, if you go a bit further away from your mic, just a bit, you can read this MDI comment as Benny if you want. Seth. It's really
short. Good mission. I slaughtered all the mechanists after I found they killed a little pagan girl.
Thank you very much, Benny. And MDI. Yeah, so MDI must have played it on lowest, easiest, and middle difficulty, because on hardest you are not allowed to kill humans.
Yeah, an expert you can, but it's actually it's really interesting because we were just talking about like, oh, Garrett's not a killer and stuff like that, but MDI chose to kind of role play it in a way where he added that to his character, which I think is really interesting. That revenge is like a like a steampunk Punisher or something.
Which connects to what we earlier said, like, Garrett is like everybody, or, everybody, Garrett is like, you want to play him. And yeah, he is like the revenge Garrett. But I know the feeling, because that's something I know, like, even back in the days, where I thought, like, oh, damn it, you guys actually deserve it. But of course, I was too afraid.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of those interesting kind of things about Thief, where you can kind of on the normal difficulty you can play your own way, and if you wanna slaughter all of the mechanists, you can do so. So kind of adds, and it's not really doesn't necessarily go against Garrett's character. It just all depends on your interpretation, I guess.
And that's what I love about video games, that even if it's just, a bunch of pixels, textures, and polygons, that it still emotionally affects you. And but it's very different to people, because I remember. Do you guys know Ultima 9 Ascension?
Definitely know the name.
Yeah, so Ultima 9 was like the last game in the Ultima series, and at the beginning there you are at the avatars, so it's the character you play, house, and there is a dog. And a friend of mine, we played it, and he was killing the dog, and I was like, "Hey, you cannot kill the dog. What's wrong with you?" And he was like, "What? It's just a digital dog. He doesn't have a soul." And I was like, "Yeah, but you can't. You don't kill the dog. It's like." Was very interesting to see the different approaches on. He just saw it as a game. That was programmed. Nobody gets hurt in real life, and I was like really angry with him.
Yeah, it's like you're connecting. Like it's like some people connect to more like the literal side of it, where they're like, "This is just like ones and zeros, like on a disc or something," or
Yeah.
and then you're like, "Well, no, there's like an emotional aspect to this. It's it's not real, but it's like it represents something to you. Like even though the actions you're taking aren't real, it's just kind of more of like an emotional connection to the work of material." I
Yep.
get that.
I agree. So I think I go on with Ritnartim. Is that a wordplay or something? I don't know. But he or she says, I think I really liked it the first time. I played Thief 2 before 1, so all that weird stuff really came out of nowhere for me. It's cool the way it's just there in the middle of all the more realistic, in quotes, stuff in the rest of the game. I still like the first part in the pagan village now, but everything after that is kind of boring to replay. A common problem with more linear Thief missions. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
the bit about linearity is totally fair.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, but yeah, it's definitely. I agree.
It affects the replayability a lot. Like, a bigger mission is always fun to approach and try different things, and now I go this way, but here you have barely any chance.
I find it interesting that somebody here is calling out that it's very different in tone from the rest of Thief 2. And it really is, right? Like, Thief 2 is kind of like taking all of the stuff that worked in Thief 1 and improving on it. So Trail of Blood, which is sort of like a throwback to some of the things that didn't work that well in Thief 1, definitely does feel out of place.
Yeah.
For better or worse, depending on which type of player you are.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I just realized we are already almost 2 hours in. And we have a lot of stuff to cover.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's good for the episode that we now like are rushing comments, but
Speed read.
No. Now you, Seth, or Jake, one of you guys, native speakers, have the honor to go to forums in the list.
Got it.
And then there's that little, people on the forums are way more expressive, I would say. What the?
Somebody's popular. It's Karis calling. He's disappointed.
Yeah, it's a spam phone call. I apologize. But yeah, I can read the first comment. You want me to?
From Galair.
Yeah. So Galera says, first of all, I apologize for the long comment. I am one of
you.
the I am one of the people that don't like this mission too much. Gameplay wise, it plays fine. I have no problem with linearity as it allows to show story in a certain order. I also like ambient music in the village and tree beasts in the forest. But atmosphere made here just doesn't work for me. I don't like these flashbacks showing what happened with pagans. They just look funny to me rather than tragic. I always thought that these scenes are parody scenes from movies. I prefer if these scenes didn't show up. In previous missions, there was a guy killed by the mechanists in a house near the cemetery, and looking at his lone corpse, I felt sorry for him, but I can't feel the same about pagans. There was a scene with a pagan girl asking Garrett to take her doll with him. It may be cute, but I just can't be serious listening to it. This sounds like another joke to me. In the mission, there's no dewdrop in Garrett. In the next mission, there's no dewdrop in Garrett's inventory. So I guess after meeting with Victoria, Garrett immediately threw the doll away.
Can you have a break and we cut here?
Yeah.
I can totally see it, and I know that I remember from my favorite PC gaming magazine. They always do like after 10 years, they do like a rewatch what came out 10 years ago, and when they talked about System Shock 2, which also had those ghost moments, and they said like even back in 1999 when System Shock 2 came out, you couldn't take those this serious, and it didn't add so much, or took away from actually the seriousness that is behind it, because they mostly showed dramatic moments. But with this clunky characters with barely any movement, I can totally see why. But this is again that thing, like, he sees those polygon people that can't move really well and express themselves body-wise. And and other people are just totally emotionally involved, and they can adapt to that, which I think is actually a different approach on how you see things.
Well, imagine if these were full motion sequences with like actors with motion capture suits. Like, I feel like at that point we would think it was boring and like too long and overdone, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a happy medium.
Yep.
So
it's in
go.
game.
You can go on, Jake.
Sure. In one random house, Garrett mentions this line: "These people didn't have any chance against the mechanists." See, we referenced that earlier. Despite the fact that one of the first corpses belongs exactly to a mechanist, these harmless people somehow managed to kill him, so they aren't that harmless after all. One of the
That's
scenes.
what I also we have. I think we have to go in partways because we cannot talk about everything. I totally agree with that one. I was thinking the same before. That the first guy you see is a dead mechanist, So, but maybe that's my other theory. Maybe he was killed by the pagan you're following.
Sneaksy pagans.
Could be.
Just an idea,
But yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, oh, they are totally harmless, but hey, they killed this guy, Meh.
I think you might be right. It had to be killed by the pagan devouring. I mean, can you imagine other mechanists coming across another paganist's body? Mechanist's body, and they wouldn't, they're like, "I just leave him there. We'll deal with him later."
It's a friendly fire incident. They're all too embarrassed to admit they were the one who shot him.
Yeah. Oh, that's another great theory. Might be, maybe. But yeah, but I think it's a bit uncanny, I would say. But please go on, Jake.
Okay. One of the scenes shows the pagan talking to the scarecrow about escape, so I guess they aren't too smart. That makes this question: why Victoria decided to cooperate with them. It doesn't look like she profits from that. For contacts with Mosley, she could use these shape-shifting rat men from Thief 1. This makes me think that the pagan faction has only been created for the purpose of showing the pagan village's extermination.
Oh, that I think that's a strange interpretation of the behavior of the pagans. What do you guys think? Because they talk to their things, and because it's like their beliefs, I would say they're not stupid.
I always thought what was going on with the Scarecrow was that character was speaking to someone who died in different circumstances or died somewhere else. So we don't see their ghost, whereas he died there, right? We're only seeing the ghosts of where the pagans actually died. So whoever he was speaking to didn't die there. They went on. So I think he was speaking to the person you're following.
Ah, but I think the person we are following arrived at the village when the thing already happened there.
Fair. And we also see the mother and child speaking at the entrance to the portal with the eyes and the backup rubies. See, these tricksy pagans, they can't even die in one place.
Is it actually what? That's the question. So it must be another mother and a child, right?
Well, pagans, they're only capable of producing one child each, so it just has to be the case.
Yeah. So no, because because I'm wondering, is it maybe some situation that maybe happened way before the mechanists arrived? So it's just we don't know when those ghost stories are recorded and for what reason and why they appear suddenly to Garrett. So maybe it happened before, like the mom said, hey, you want to have some fun, want to see some snow, just get to the mall, I pick you up later. So he jump into the portal, and it maybe didn't happen during the massacre.
The Garrett on drugs explanation is growing on me.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
But to comment on the why Victoria decides to cooperate with them, I feel like the bigger story is the chaos versus order, right? And the pagans worship the woodsy lord. They're already in line with Victoria. I mean, it depends on how much Victoria trusts them, right? But they're an obvious fact. I mean, they're the obvious faction to cooperate with because they already live the common way. They fight for the common good.
They don't ask questions either.
No, she's a plant woman. So, and they, they are praying to plants and nature. So I think it's the obvious choice.
Is she the new trickstress?
No, I think she's like some
Woodsy,
She's much cooler.
the woodsy
she's
lady.
Jesus.
Green Jesus. Like the Jolly Green Giant.
It's Jesus, of course.
The Jolly Green Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, but Jake, please
Sure,
go
yeah.
on. There's a lot to come.
Yep. Speaking about the attack on the village, why has it happened? Karis is going to release rust gas and wipe out everyone in just a couple of days, so why does he attack this village? And how did the mechanists find the village anyway? They were too scared to enter the cemetery in the previous mission, so I don't know how they know about the portal. Also, how did the wounded pagan seriously running away during the mechanist attack? He also needed to look for ruby eyes to enter the maw. That's a lot of work for a heavily wounded person.
I love his point of view. And that's the total opposite of people that try to make things logical, That's he's just seeing the facts. I totally agree with you, Galel.
Entrance area in Maw looks scary, so I really got good vibes. 3 red lines on the wall reminds me of the Quake 3 logo. Also on the ground is another Mechanist corpse. How did he die? But the whole charm of this place vanishes when I first visit the first line of defense of the new Maw. Here is a big group of eyeball plants together with rats. Eyeball plants just stare at you. They're very weird and funny looking. Rats are no problem, but why are they here? And there's a nearby corpse of another Mechanist. So it looks like all these plants and rats somehow managed to kill the Mechanist. He says, "Sigh. This just doesn't make any sense to me."
See, I think the eyeball plants are the single greatest moment in the entire mission, because that's the moment where you're walking along, you're minding your own business, you've seen the mob before, everything is, it's very thiefy, and then suddenly you're in a room full of 60 eyeball plants that all turn and look at you, and that's when things feel weird.
Have the eyeball plants been in Thief 1 in the sword or something?
Nope.
Okay. They would have fit in there, but okay, yeah, then it makes it even cooler, yeah.
By the way, these plants are Alex's friends.
Except in Random Taffers, the
Godbreaker.
Godbreaker. Huge disappointed. Worst mission ever.
I thought they were my friends.
That I will never get over that. But please go on. I'm crying now.
Then there are 8 beasts, and they also just look funny. I can't get scared because of how they look. I would prefer Ratmen from the previous game, and before anyone will say they're called 8 beasts in Drawmed, and it was due to Looking Glass Studios' mistake, they look nowhere near like monkeys. I'm gonna say that I'm glad that Looking Glass made this mistake in Thief 1. Monkeys just look very anticlimactic. No wonder they never returned in Thief 3. Instead, we got proper Ratmen.
I, I love this comment.
Very analytical.
I think that what I said before, I think those 8 beasts in quotes, they don't look very scary. They look charming somehow, fluffy.
Were they meant to be scary? I mean, they're just a different form of life, right? I sometimes,
I agree.
I think we drop into the Maw expecting the Maw from Thief 1, but what we get is a different Maw, right? Going back to what I said about them trying to get us on their side.
It's the meh.
It's the meh.
the meh.
Is it the maw? And that's what I meant, it's not the maw. And what I like is instead we got proper Ratman.
This isn't your granddad's Maw. This is the chill Maw.
Yeah. The 4 seasons maw.
The Maw where Garrett does drugs. 420 Maw it.
Yeah. So, Jake, I think you already made it.
Yes.
Almost, I mean.
Yeah, so he goes on to say, seasonal villages just look cool, but doesn't really add anything other than these comical monkeys. Tree beasts are very underutilized. While the ambient music is great, it's possible to miss tree beasts if you just run through the center of the area. I only learned about the existence of tree beasts from fan missions when I learned that they were in this mission. I returned to this area and finally found them. So previously, I managed not to notice these very dangerous enemies, and that's this mission's fault.
I agree.
And
You
then
guys?
Yeah, I think the mission does make it kind of easy to miss out on a couple of its more critical moments.
But how do you see it? Like, I never really see tree beasts as a big, dangerous enemy. Because,
Well,
they are easy to avoid in most cases, even in fan missions.
I think the thing with the tree beasts is that they're dangerous when you don't know they're there. And the first time you play, you don't even know they exist. So there's one of two ways this can go. You'll completely miss them because you're the kind of player who just makes a beeline for the clearing ahead, or you're a player that likes to explore and you just kind of wander off to the side and walk right into a tree beast's arms. And then they take your face off and you're scarred for life.
Tree face. But bark face. What I want to say is, because he mentioned 2 things, like the air beasts don't look really scary, and the tree beasts, or what I just said, like I don't see them as a big threat. And I just played Nick's new mission, Raven's Reach, and there are like corpse eaters, I think they are called, and they look like huge ice bear monkeys with tits and fluffy, and they don't look really scary actually. I think they're kind of cute, like a polar bear, and with the and also sorry, I lost. Yeah, and he has some kind of tree beast like things in there, and they are on a really tight place, where you don't have much room to to avoid them. But I just walked through there because it's just tree beasts. They don't react very early to the player. Sometimes then suddenly they react, and it's like oh. But in general, I don't see them as a huge threat.
Well, there's a lot of tree beasts scattered throughout that area that are not actually NPCs. They're just models. So I think there's kind of the implication that the tree beasts gain sentience after they've grown to a certain point, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess what I'm hearing here is that 8 beasts aren't scary enough, and we need a fan mission that combines the concept art bug beast that looks like a woman with the alpha ogre that has 2 heads and the thief 1/8 beasts. Now there's a scary enemy.
I think that scary enemies are a thing we can totally avoid in general by not placing them anywhere.
I also have a comment here, and it's he writes about, like you said, 8 beasts not being scary enough, tree beasts being overutilized, and you can easily miss them. And I feel like it doesn't have to be. Actually, I think it's better if it's not. Everything is not there for a specific purpose, right? Not everything has to be purposeful, right? I feel like if it's the things that are not there for you to like, you have to see this, right? If the tree beasts were properly utilized, they would somehow lead you to the tree beasts. It wouldn't be as good for the world building, right? I like these things that you rediscover later on. I think that's about the tree beasts, right? It's a nice little thing, right? Not everybody's gonna come across them. I think that's part of the beauty. And when it comes to the 8 beasts not being scary enough, I don't think they were there to be scary. I think it's the whole idea here is just to make it weird, right? It's not like we're really creepy. I mean, the whole forest doesn't feel scary for me. I think the main notes here were sad and weird. I think that's what they were going for here, and they just sprinkled stuff along. Maybe there was also some confusion in design, but
Well, at the risk of agreeing with you, how did everybody feel about Into the Odd?
Oh no, let's not open this window.
All I was going to say is that Into the Odd does something similar, right? It's trying to make things weird. So, like, I feel like the kind of person who likes Trail of Blood also likes Into the Odd.
I wouldn't agree in general. I think
I would.
No, Into the Odd is way more open and way more thief-like. Of course, it's years later, a new dark,
the
and
much
benefit
more
of being a
complex and
decade.
everything. But yeah,
No, I would not really. I do not necessarily see the connection there.
yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily, but I mean, there's some truth to that, right?
You
I
can
would say the
finish,
statistics would sort
can
of show the same.
you can finish Trail of Blood in 15 minutes if you know what to do, or even way faster, of course. And Into the Odd is like,
Oh, I agree. It does have. I think it has the benefit of having years, though, right? Like, I wonder if let's ask the viewers if they like Into the Odd. Mention it. I'm curious to know if there's a relationship.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. But yeah. So, Jake, last part.
Yeah, last party says, so my way of playing this mission is to just play it, beat it, not look very closely into what's going on, because it just doesn't make any sense. Maw of Chaos was one of my favorite missions in Thief 1. Seeing how the new Maw is filled with funny-looking enemies is just painful to watch.
Oh, now he's getting emotional, at this point. But I think thanks, Galer, for this very interesting comment. Yeah, it was fun to discuss it. In my opinion, there were many interesting points, and I would agree with a lot of them, personally.
I agree,
For sure.
but it does really show that Geller really doesn't like this mission. I feel like he's at points he feels like he's almost finding explanations for it to be bad. I think
It's the other way around, right?
His favorite mission, the Maw, was ruined by Trail of Blood.
I mean, it's I don't know. I also felt like this about this mission before I had to, rediscover it. I guess, but I can see good parts in it now. Still, though, when next time I play Thief 2 playthrough, I'm not going to be looking forward to this mission. But
no, you'll think of Galere, whose favorite mission, the Maw, was ruined by it.
Yeah, and I think his last part of his comment is like, and I took that personal,
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, let's go on with the also from the forums, Amanil. Those names. Why can't you have the next comment would be from Snake later? That's a good name, but Amen Aemaniel.
Amenel.
I go on with it. Here's my review I posted on Clatremis channel last year. We don't take it personal that it's not original for our podcast, but hey, it's fine. Since I'm a huge fan of magic and mystery, dark project stuff, you could say I'm biased in favor of supernatural elements, but I do not think that Trail of Blood is that odd one level breaking the flow of the game. It is not only a nice breath of fresh air. Seth, you said that earlier. After all these cold and lifeless mechanist or city missions, but it's a logical continuation of the main storyline. It explains the relationship between mechanists and pagans, showing the ruthlessness of the former. The pagan village contains both human patrolling mechanists and supernatural ghosts elements, while only the Maw is completely supernatural. So I would say you get a nice mix of both. I think it's an interesting view on that. Anyone?
There's definitely sorry, dog. There's definitely narrative incentive to show how bad the mechanists are, right? Like before this, we have Thief 1 that just kind of shows the Hamrites as like sort of outdated religious extremists. And so there's no reason for us to think the mechanists are any worse than Hamrites. So like we need to see the mechanists doing the worst thing ever, which is parting a little girl from her doll.
Yep. But to be honest, I cannot. Yeah, I can see the connection. Emmanuel goes on. The atmosphere is superb. Superb. I can't even remember how many times I've listened to that hypnotizing Trail of Blood soundtrack theme, which starts when you approach the pagan village for the first time. You can feel a sense of tragedy in the air. Even Garrett pities the slaughtered pagans. Listening to the ghosts talking to each other is bone-chilling. And that's a very, contrast to the former comment. Like it's bone-chilling. And I would say...
Bone-chilling versus just, apparently stupid.
Can someone please go on? Because my doorbell rang. I was at the reading these bits and pieces.
I got it.
Oh no, Seth, you go.
I'll fight you for it. Reading these bits and you Taffer!
No, go ahead.
You got it. Reading these bits and pieces of correspondence makes you feel like a detective uncovering some mystery. There's a great variety of design. Yeah, the mission's linear, but the conceptual and visual variety of areas you pass through keeps you entertained. I definitely agree with that. The Four Seasons was really cool, and I don't think we had another mission that... Like, we had other missions in Thief 1, like the Sword, where you went through all sorts of different areas, like the house, the garden, outer space. But we didn't have a mission that organized them in a way that was relatable. The Four Seasons.
Yeah, I agree with his main point. I think that, we've touched on it before too, but, it's linear, but there is some like visual differences. It's not just the same environment repeated. There's some different looking areas and different kinds of areas that, do keep it fresh for what it is, for sure.
In keeping with the Four Seasons, you might say it's a variation on a theme. Haha, Vivaldi classical joke.
Nice.
While there's a great variety of design, some areas are underdeveloped. For instance, the seasonal differences in the Eight Beast Village are minimal and barely noticeable until you get to the icicles. Same goes for the final grove of the Tree Beasts. These sections could be much bigger and more interesting. Yeah, during my playthrough, what I noticed is you can actually just climb up into the treehouse in spring and walk all the way through to winter without ever leaving the tree houses.
Yeah, it's just for the loot, for the optional like loot and stuff like that. So
Yeah, you can. It's really linear in that way. You can just navigate the second half of the level through the tree houses. So yeah, that was the end of that comment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I like that part is linear. I'm hearing that a lot of people like the Four Seasons. For me, the Four Seasons, I don't know.
I definitely
I
agree. Could have been bigger.
Can I be honest? Until this episode, I didn't realize that it was 4 seasons. I just recognized that there is a snowy area, but while playing it, I didn't pay attention to that detail, actually.
you have to look at the map for that. But I was playing this mission today actually, and
Oh, there's
it's
a map.
just exactly. Like it's. I don't know if there's another. I think Godbreaker was like that. You get a map, like you have a map, and it says like, here's the village.
It's like
Yeah.
you're in the village. It's like you don't.
Here
need-
in the village, right? And
Yeah,
if
it's
there's a
what you-
connected part, it's like the map doesn't really,
The map, the map is
help you.
useless.
Yeah, it doesn't help you navigate unless, I mean, it's more like a memorabilia. Oh, look where I've been. There
Yeah.
was a village.
It's just a line because like it just connects like the village to the next area is just like a line. It doesn't show you the actual like route that you're taking. Like it doesn't say go left here. Some of the other maps in the game you can like orientate yourself with the compass and be like, okay, I need to take a right, take a left, then I'm there. But this map is just like you're in the village now. You're in the maw. Not like it just doesn't really actually have like a utilitarian purpose.
I feel like that's a problem with Thief's consistency in general, right? There's some missions where you can navigate entirely by the map because it shows you every room, and there's some missions where it shows you broad sections of a mansion and you only know how they connect via like a single door.
But in general, it's put into a context why it is that way.
I mean, but this one has like very little useful information. I think I threw Godbreaker's swamp mission, because I was talking about the swamp mission, under the bus too quickly, right? Because at least there, you can't really, or perhaps I missed it, but you can't really orientate yourself. But it does show you what exists in this, swamp that you're in. It reminds you there's also, this part where you can get to. So you haven't been there, keep exploring, right? Whereas here, it's like, you don't really get to see what's going to happen. You don't really get to know how much houses are there in the village, so you don't really miss one, stuff like that. It's like absolutely. I mean, there are a couple of comments on there, but I don't remember if they're useful. But I was really disappointed by the underutilized map.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense in the context where, Garrett is in that strange area, and of course he feels the necessity to draw a useless map.
Garrett's just an artist by nature. It's very sensitive.
But it's not. I think isn't the map picked up?
It is. You're right.
You do pick up a map of the village, yeah, but Garrett adds to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't. It was unnecessary. But I think they had like, oh, we have to have a map.
Like it's a map, Mechanist made a map which is completely useless. It shows that there is a village once you're already in it, and then Garrett takes his time every time he passes into another section of the Four Seasons. He's like, all right, I'll take my coloring pencils out.
In another life, Garrett was a cartographer.
Yeah, it must be so, right?
Yeah, that would have been another amazing game, I would say. Sadly,
Have
we
you?
didn't get that.
Yeah, instead of thief, it would be called cartographer, and your job is to just walk around drawing maps.
Just like thief is just the basic name what he does, like cartographer.
I mean, I tried that. I was just gonna ask.
The Maple Age.
I was just gonna ask. Have you ever started making your own map in a mission that didn't have a map?
No.
No.
I did early on when there were fan missions that didn't have maps at all, because like I don't think people had figured out how to implement them yet. I actually did draw a map of the rooms I'd bid to so that I would have a layout.
How long did you go with it?
Oh, not very long. Probably
It-
like I don't know, maybe 50% of the entire actual map space.
No, but I mean, was this an activity did you continue to do? Because
Not
in
at
my
all.
case, it was it was the same. I tried. I saw how time consuming this endeavor is, and essentially, I started. I spent more time on writing down the map.
But actually playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I get
How-
you.
However, I did. There were a couple of missions like this. One of them where it came in very handy. Well, not really handy, but it increased my my enjoyment of the mission. Was in Scarlet Cascabel, the hotel part. So what I did there was I just made print screens of the actual map that the author, the Pukey Brunster provided, right? And I would print them, and while I was playing, I would make
Draw lines.
I would draw lines where the patrols are, and it made it so that if I would ever play an Iron Man style, I would definitely use something like this because I wasn't caught by the guards. Like I was very rarely would something surprise me because I would know everything, right? I knew if I went into this hallway, I have to wait at least until I hear this guy because he is patrolling here. And some places where it felt slightly crowded were now like my domain. I was moving freely through them, and it felt like I was taking it more seriously, and I really enjoyed it more because of that. But just to make the map from scratch, that's another thing.
Getting really into the spirit of thieving.
Yeah, I'm gonna become a cartographer actually.
So, guys, that was really interesting, but I think we need to go on a bit. Sorry.
It's cool.
So, Seth, would you do the snake comment, but please don't read it in a snake voice? I knew it.
From
Party
Snake.
pooper.
I think I mostly share the views of Amenel as well. Trail of Blood is really the only Dark Project-esque mission in Thief 2, which is a shame. It contains some supernatural elements and surreal atmosphere, which is otherwise sorely absent from Thief 2. The use of ghosts and environmental storytelling is well executed, and it's one of the more emotionally resonant missions across the entire series. Unfortunately, I think the mission suffers from the same fate as many of the Thief 2 missions, in that it appears to be rushed, with many empty spaces and lack of details. I assume the designers probably had some great concepts, but they weren't fully implemented, and it leaves us with a fairly linear and at times uninteresting landscape to explore. The tree beasts are a very nice addition, and I still remember the jump scare I got when they first wake up. Yep. But these types of additions are few and far between. Nonetheless, I think Trail of Blood is an above average mission overall. Where Trail of Blood excels is in atmosphere, and it serves as a key turning point in the plot, preceding one of the best cutscenes in the series and introducing a familiar foe/ally. It also sets up a strong portion of the game with Life of the Party and some of the other good missions following this.
I think the last part is very interesting because that is something I recognized already way earlier. Thief 2 has so many turning points in the plot. You know, just like 2 missions ago, like where you no, it starts with ambush. There's already a turning point. Then you have the Truart's Manor, and boom, turning point. Then tracing the career is a little turning point, and and here is another turning point. Boom, that's actually I like that. The story is like boom, boom, boom.
You might say it twists as much as a snake does.
I love that. You can definitely say Snake is a Thief 1 player, I would say.
Sounds about right. I mean, I agree. I think it's a shame that Thief 2 didn't have more throwbacks to Thief 1, but I think this was a good bone, you know? The dog was thrown a bone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely I agree with that point though of like um it definitely has like a lot of twists in the story, like you said, Alex. Like you get to ambush, and it's like, well, you think Truart's your enemy, and it's like then Karis is your enemy, and then you find Victoria, and you think she's your enemy, and then she becomes your ally. So that's definitely one of the great things about the story. I know the story sometimes gets kind of ragged on by people in comparison to the first game, but there's always like some sort of new revelation. So agreed.
Are there people who like the story in Thief 2 less than Thief 1?
I mean, all of it's anecdotal, but I read a lot of stuff on the forums and stuff where people seem to kind of prefer, or YouTube videos of people say they prefer the first game story. I don't know.
That's very interesting. I think Thief 1 has like a more predictable twist, but a more punchy twist. Whereas Thief 2 has like a much better storyline throughout. It's a lot more coherent, I think, in Thief 2.
I think they are hard to compare. Like I think it's very different. I could imagine that the Thief 1 turning points are more effective because they are more rare. And I think it's from a writer's perspective, I think it's more effective to have one bigger goal that you follow over several missions,
Getting
But
your eye ripped out, for instance.
that's what I thought that's the moment. I think that's one of the most iconic moments. And here you have, like more little things, but they don't affect you as Garrett so much. You are just like a vehicle, that is you are, in general, you are just a watcher the whole time. But in Thief 1, you are used as a tool.
Yeah, well, in Thief 1, you're the watcher until you're not, right? You're Garrett, you're watching the world, and then suddenly the world grabs you by the face and rips your eye out and says, oh, by the way, you're involved. Whereas Thief 2, it's like the world is what's threatened. Like, Garrett isn't directly threatened, the entire existence of the world is threatened.
Yeah, so I think both are very interesting, like it's interesting just to be the silent watcher, and now after this mission you suddenly get involved by someone and used as a tool again. And it gets personal, of course, as well. But I think that's the lag of Thief 2. It doesn't feel as personal as Thief 1.
Yeah, well, in Thief 1, we had that whole romance with Constantine. Like, where's the romance with Victoria in Thief 2?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say. So, yeah, Jake already had to leave. But we are already in 2.5 hours. But there's not much to go. There are 2 comments from the forums and 3 from Twitter, I guess.
I have a list of 30 items. We saved time for that, right?
You're
I'm
joking.
kidding. I have one item this time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but we will add. I said we will add everything, and I think that's actually interesting to talk about Trail of Blood for such a long time. Nobody would have expected that, but I think I like the format with the comments. Not that we will do it every time, but in this case, I Yeah, I appreciate it. So, next, do you want to go on with Cletremus' comment on forums?
I don't think I'm worthy to. I'll try.
It's not long.
I echoed the last two posts, and I think I mostly alluded to similar thoughts when discussing the mission in my Let's Play. The mission is made better by being so different from the rest of the game, while in reality, it isn't more than the average. The atmosphere and implementation of the mystical elements are its strong points. Empty areas and linearity are its weaknesses. Short and sweet, I love it, and I
Yep.
agree with it.
And to the point.
Correct?
Yeah, I cannot really add something. I think other comments already got into detail, and this is like this is a mix of like the pros and cons, and really done well. And yeah, thank you, Cletremus. Hovar.
So, Intruder next.
Go ahead.
All right. Intruder says, to add my thoughts, as someone who played the Thief games out of order, in brackets, I started with Thief 2 around Christmas of 2000. The mission was a huge surprise and a positive one. While playing the Metal Age for the first time, I was accustomed to navigating and, in quotations, exploiting city streets, rooftops, manors, etc. pretty quickly. Trail of Blood, on the other hand, threw me into a completely different environment. Especially the latter part, down in Victoria's Maw, got me by surprise. I really did feel like Garrett mentioned it in the missions briefing. Where am I? It's kind of funny when you say Victoria's Maw.
Did he play Thief 2 before Thief 1?
That's what he
I
said.
think, yep.
So yeah, I think then that's the effect you actually have. You know, then this mission has a totally different feeling. Like then you're, what is that? You know, you didn't expect that. But if you played Thief 1, of course, you're like, oh, we're this shit again.
Yeah, it's a return to sender, right?
I meant, oh, great, finally.
Well, it depends on what type of player you are. If you liked them all, you're excited.
Did people really like them all?
I had this conversation with my friend. He said it's so anticlimactic because you don't actually have to really sneak around while Constantine does his thing at the end of Thief 1. Whereas I was like, oh, the Maw is great. It's like this totally different mission than the rest of the game, and it's really cool. Perspectives, right?
We had the discussion on our top 3 Thief 1 episode. Yeah, it's debatable.
Just like Trail of Blood.
Yep. Shame. Yeah, so let's go on. I will read the next one from Twitter. It's from...
Wait, there's more?
He's German. Adrian Dürr. Yeah, on the Twitter thing. And he must be German. Adrian Dürr. Initially played the German version mostly, but was baffled when I played the English version. Because soundtrack in English, it appeared more like a mysterious forest, whereas the German was a very sad mood, which fits better in my opinion, while walking through pagan corpses and spirits. Also, the pagan voices fit better in German.
You know what? I've never played that version.
Yeah, wow, why not? Don't you want to get the real Thief experience?
I do.
I cannot relate. I don't remember because I play Thief on English for 15 years now. I sometimes when I visit Garrett, the Let's Player, the German one, and then he has the German guard voices, I'm always like, oh, what's that? You know, they are not bad, but they are like so. I'm not used to them.
They're different.
I cannot
Thank God.
relate.
Thank God Stephen Russell translated them into English, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, he did. He translated them, and he read them. That might be because the German, there are some benefits to the German versions, but there are also some lows to the they that's an interesting thing, like the differences that they made back in the days. Like, there were some people that really wanted to change things, which is interesting, I think. Nowadays, you can be happy if the translation is good.
Are you telling me you didn't enjoy walking through gardens of pagan corpses, listening to the hit single Axingite Vos by Subway to Sally?
No, it was 99 red balloons, of course. But the German versions, of course, 99 Luftballons. Yeah, I think I will change my Steam Thief 2 version to the German one, and then maybe I can have a look into that. But
I'll have to give it a shot too.
Oh, Elderith, I overlooked that almost. He said, I like True Love Blood because it is a love letter to Thief 1. Also, Dewdrop is not that great, guys. Discuss. We already did. But thanks for the comment anyways.
I snuck that one in there.
The next one would be Coddy, also in the Twitter section. Next, would you go on with that?
Yeah, sure. Not that great of a mission on its own, but does a good job mixing things up between the more standard thieving missions. Yeah.
All set.
Shaken, not stirred.
And VFig, appreciated follower. Seth, maybe you can go on with him.
Yeah, VFig's got a double response. I really love the first half. Oh, it's because it's on Twitter. You only have so many characters. I get it now. I really love the first half. The strongest mood piece in all of Thief 2. The pagan village is melancholy and mysterious. It shows us the human side of the pagans when all we saw in the Dark Project was monsters, and more of the inhumanity of the mechanists. And the stone portal face is diamonds. The second half of Trail of Blood, it's okay, but it feels a bit too much like a theme park ride, especially when you're going through the Four Seasons tree villages. Some moments still shine. The Plumsies conversation is gold. And discovering tree beasts is Thief 2's most terrifying moment. Yeah, I can agree with that. My face agrees.
Right. Please tell us about that. We didn't discuss that. No, what? I don't think that we actually mentioned that, but that's true. Like the pagans have been really like barbarians before, like monsters and stuff, and now it shows like the actual pagans. The roots.
The human pagans. Yeah, they were kind of like, they were boogeymen in the first game, right? They're often mentioned but never seen.
Yeah, so
maybe it's just your classic racism.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if they're just described, right?
They were not very nice in Thief 1, I have to admit.
Well, our sole experience with them in Thief 1 is like, we get a bunch of Hammerite scriptures and like a couple of notes in Lord Beford's Manor that are, I think, directly from pagans, but we never actually see any character that is described as pagan. We see the 8 beasts and like the bug beasts and the craymen, but I don't think the bug beasts and the craymen and the 8 beasts are ever actually explicitly described as pagan creatures.
I think
They're
they
demons.
were connected. Yeah, but the connection is made, in the head, and I think you can see in many comments that people, connect this theme to the pagans and what happened in Thief 1. So there is this connection. Of course, Victoria, I think, is the big connection there.
I think Thief 3 is the first game to like tie them together, right? Like we actually see a pagan ritual in Thief 3 for the first time.
Yes, and you can work together with them. And yeah, it's very interesting. But throughout this episode, I just more and more see the importance of this mission, actually.
So Alex has turned a corner. He's now Trail of Blood's biggest fan.
See,
No.
that always happens. That always happens.
We have a way of warming people's hearts here on the show.
No, but if the arguments are right, I can be convinced. I still think in gameplay, the mission is lame, but it actually has an impact on carving the world of Thief. And
I
it's
have to
very
agree.
important.
My last playthrough was not as I remembered it to be. Like you always kind of build it up in your mind. I still like Trail of Blood, but it does diminish with.
You've built up Trail of Blood in your mind?
Yeah, well, it's been a couple of years since I played it last, and like I always remember that first golden time I played it. Right, the first time that I got my face ripped off. That first great, fantastic time. But yeah, it doesn't live up to your memory of it. I don't think.
I remember when
No.
you, like a couple of minutes ago, when you were saying that Alex was saying that there's a lot of twists in Thief Mission, and we were talking about how you're always the Watcher until you're not, and you said you're the Watcher until the game grabs you by the face, and I thought you were going to continue with and it shoves it into the bark,
Indeed.
but you didn't make that one. I don't know what I mentioned this. I think I'm getting loopy from this mission.
Trail of Brains.
Yep.
Out of blood.
Are we
And
done with the comments?
the last comment, I think this sums it up really well. It's from Zemplin Castellan on YouTube as well. I liked it. A good way to incorporate the pagan faction into the story without distancing the story itself from the more industrial themes of the Metal Age. And I think that's a good choice by accident for the last comment.
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
that sums actually up what I just discovered about the
I think
mission.
that's how all of us feel, right? It's a paperclip mission.
Yeah. We will all go into Sunday and we are like, we don't need to go to church this time. We have been blessed by all the prayers people sent us. Yeah, I think it was interesting to do it with that format. I hope you guys agree. I don't think that we should do it every time, but especially for the next mission, there's a lot more to say from our sides, I think.
We read all the comments, right? Well, next time we just cherry pick. I feel like the best comments should always be there. It kind of includes the community. I like it.
Yeah, we could do it by vote. Comments with the most upvotes.
Yeah, but then when we come to that point, then you guys can start to do some background work. You guys just have to appear to record, and then we stop recording, and you're free. No, with counting votes and stuff, I'm not doing that.
We can each bring our favorite comment as individuals.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, Alex, before we finish the mission, let me kick off with my list and that one item from it. And let me ask you guys: Do you remember when the cutscene starts when you finish the mission?
And Garrett's in a much bigger forest than he was a moment before.
Yeah. Oh no, for me it was the same. It was not for you. I don't know, but I am a little bit, short-sighted. Whatever. But he, in the cutscene, he walks around. He walks around the forest. He looks at the dead mechanists on the treetops. The tree kind of tries to grab at him, and then there are some strange noises before Victoria appears. And these noises are like, "Yes, I." Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Did we ever talk about those noises?
No.
No.
Not even once.
So I was listening to that and I was like, this sounds a lot like somebody speaking in backwards.
Yeah.
I was just coming to the same conclusion.
Yeah. And so I recorded it. I played backwards, right? I was like, I found the right. I was really hyped for this. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to discover something new. There's a secret message there. It's going to be so... No, it's just the who did you think you're going to find? Me or my Thistlades? The speech that Victoria actually does, it's that speech in reverse. So there is no secret message, but
I don't want to disappoint you, but there are already threads and audio files and videos where those lines are played.
oh, I'm sure. But if I missed on those, I'm sure at least
Somebody's hearing this for the first time.
10% of the viewers, right?
But it's the thing, like you expect like something like some funny messages from the developers or something like that, and then I think in this it makes sense at some point, but on the other hand, it's a bit disappointing that there is not a funny hidden message like some other games did as well.
You're so much into this funny stuff. I would rather have a serious world building thing rather than a funny message.
No, I would love to have like, hey, this is Tim Stelmark. Thanks for buying the game.
Imagine if it was Benny. How'd you get all the way down here?
How did I end up in this forest?
That'd be nice.
But I appreciate the effort you put into that, Max.
You say that while laughing. That's
No. I really do. That was my first thought. Like, oh wow, he really.
He does love me.
He's really interested in Thief. No, but hey, let's not make it longer than necessary. But it's an interesting discovery. I didn't know that the exact message is that. But do you have more next?
No, that's all I have this time.
Really?
I'm disappointed.
Really?
I thought you had 29 more points.
I mean, okay, I have one more. I mean, I found it interesting that the how the pagans called the moon, right? The Nene and the NN, and when the moon is full, it's the Woodsy Lord's jackal, and when it's not, it's Woodsy Lord, jackal's dark side. It was just,
oh man, that's a good point. We do get the pagan phases of the moon from this mission.
Yeah.
I think after Seth was hit by the tree beast, they changed it. This is Seth. Full moon is like Seth before meeting the tree beast. Half moon is like Seth meeting the
without his face.
And no moon is like Seth after meeting the tree beast.
Many health potions were drunk. Many were needed.
So
I took the plumsies.
Yeah, I think I will need some plumsies to edit this episode. So yeah, guys, thanks for taking part in it. Next, Jake and Seth and Taffers, thank you for listening and waiting patiently for a new episode, and thank you for all the comments. And yeah, great to be back, actually. And let's see what the future brings. We have no plans, but I talked to some authors, so there might be things happening in the future.
Good night, Taffers.
Good night. Good night.
Night. Or great day or whatever. Bye.
Is this the Ma? Looks different.